What if Harry was cursed to relive every death in wizarding history every time he slept? Chapter 1, Sleepless Harry jolted upright, a scream dying in his throat, sweat drenching his sheets. The darkness of his bedroom at 12, Grimmauld Place seemed to pulse with the afterimages of what he'd just witnessed. His heart hammered so hard he could feel it in his fingertips. Lumos, he gasped, and the tip of his wand blazed to life. 3 nights. 3 nights in a row now. Each worse than the last. Harry swung his legs over the side of the bed and pressed his palms against his eyes, but it didn't help. He could still see the medieval witch burning at the stake, still hear her screams as the flames licked higher. He could still feel the rough hemp of the ropes against her wrists, still taste the smoke filling her lungs. Just a nightmare, Harry muttered to himself. Just a really vivid nightmare. But he knew it wasn't. Normal nightmares didn't come with the taste of someone else's blood in your mouth. Normal nightmares didn't leave you with memories of children you never had, lovers you never met, or a life in the 1600s you couldn't possibly have lived. Harry glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. He'd managed almost 4 hours this time before the death had dragged him back to consciousness. Progress, he supposed grimly. The bathroom mirror revealed a ghost of his former self. Dark circles had taken up permanent residence under his bloodshot green eyes. His 5 o'clock shadow was verging on, stranded on a desert island, territory. The lightning bolt scar seemed to stand out more prominently against his pallid skin. "You look like shit, Potter," he told his reflection. His reflection didn't argue. The problem had started exactly 1 week ago. The Auror office had received intelligence about a gathering of former Death Eaters at an abandoned manor in Yorkshire. Nothing major, just some bitter Voldemort supporters drowning their sorrows and plotting revenge they'd never have the courage to enact. Routine cleanup operation. Except it wasn't. Harry splashed cold water on his face, but he couldn't wash away the memory of what happened. The ambush. The chaos. The dying Death Eater, Thaddeus Knott, Theodore's uncle, grabbing Harry's wrist with surprising strength and whispering something in a language that seemed to slither rather than speak. Then the pain as the curse took hold, like someone had driven an icicle through Harry's temple. He'd passed out. When he woke up in St. Mungo's, the healers found nothing wrong with him. Just exhaustion, they said. Just stress. Just the lingering effects of a stunning spell. Until he fell asleep that night and lived through the death of Bathilda Bagshot in excruciating detail, feeling Nagini's fangs puncture her neck from the inside. Harry gave up on sleep and headed downstairs to make coffee. The ancient pipes of Grimmauld Place groaned in protest as he moved through the house. Despite Creature's best efforts and years of renovation, the place still felt haunted in the darkest hours of the night. Fitting, Harry thought, for someone who was becoming a living ghost himself. "You're late, Potter." Gawain Robards, head of the Auror office, didn't look up from the stack of parchment on his desk as Harry slipped into the morning briefing. 20 faces turned to stare at him, some concerned, others annoyed. Ron, sitting near the front, winced in sympathy. "Sorry, sir," Harry mumbled, sliding into an empty chair. "Won't happen again." "That's what you said yesterday. And the day before." Robards finally looked up, his bushy eyebrows drawing together. "My office after the briefing." Harry nodded, ignoring the whispers that rippled around him. Being the boy who lived had its advantages, but it didn't make him immune to professional standards. If anything, Robards was harder on him than the others, determined to prove he didn't play favorites. The briefing dragged on, reports of magical smuggling operations, dark artifact trafficking, and a worrying increase in memory charm abuse cases. Harry tried to focus, but his eyelids kept drooping. Every time they closed for more than a second, flashes of death danced behind them, a wizard falling from a broomstick, a child succumbing to dragonpox, a witch drowning in a cauldron of her own potion gone wrong. A sharp elbow in his ribs jerked him awake. "Mate, you're snoring," Ron whispered. "I wasn't asleep," Harry protested. Yeah, and I'm Celestina Warbeck. You were definitely out for a second there. Harry rubbed his face. Thanks. Seriously, you look terrible. What's going on? Tell you later. Robards cleared his throat pointedly, and they both straightened in their chairs. Teams are posted on the board. Dismissed. Robards gathered his papers. Potter. Now. Ron shot Harry a sympathetic look as he filed out with the others. Harry dragged himself to Robards' office, already knowing what was coming. The head Auror didn't waste time. Sit. Harry sat. You're one of my best, Potter. Or you were. Last few days, you've been a liability. Robards leaned back in his chair. Missing details in reports. Falling asleep during surveillance. Reaction time slower than a confounded troll. I haven't been sleeping well, I don't care if you've been wrestling mountain trolls all night. When you put on those robes, he gestured to Harry's Aura uniform, you need to be sharp. Lives depend on it. Your colleagues depend on it. Harry knew he was right. Yes, sir. So what's really going on? And don't give me that, not sleeping well, nonsense. I've seen you function on no sleep during the Lestrange case last year. Harry hesitated. How could he explain that he was being forced to experience random deaths from wizarding history every time he fell asleep? That he'd felt the life drain out of strangers from centuries past as if it were happening to him? I'm having some side effects. From the incident with Nott. Robards' expression shifted slightly. The healers cleared you. The healers can't find anything physically wrong, but something's not right. Harry leaned forward. I think he cursed me before he died. Something obscure. What sort of symptoms? Harry hesitated again. Nightmares. Extremely vivid ones. Makes it hard to sleep. It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. Robards studied him for a long moment. Take the rest of the week off. Sir, I don't need, that wasn't a suggestion, Potter. You're no use to me like this. Go home. See a specialist at St. Mungo's. Get whatever this is sorted. Robards picked up a quill, signaling the end of the discussion. And Potter? If this isn't resolved by Monday, I'm putting you on desk duty until it is. Harry left the office feeling both relieved and frustrated. On one hand, he desperately needed time to figure out what was happening to him. On the other hand, work was the one thing keeping him anchored to reality. Ron was waiting for him in the hallway, pretending to study a notice board about proper wand maintenance. That bad, huh? He asked, falling into step beside Harry. Forced leave until Monday. Might be for the best, mate. You look like you've been hit by the night bus. Ron lowered his voice. Seriously, what's going on? Hermione's worried sick about you. Harry glanced around to make sure they were alone. Not here. Dinner at mine tonight? Bring Hermione. Ron nodded, his expression grave. 7 okay. Perfect. As Ron headed off to his assignment, Harry made his way to his cubicle to gather his things. The exhaustion was bone deep now, but the thought of sleep terrified him. Whose death would he experience next? How much worse could it get? He was about to find out. Harry didn't remember falling asleep. One moment he was sitting on his sofa, reading through an ancient tome on curses that Hermione had lent him, and the next, he was someone else. A young man, barely 20. Harry could feel his lanky body, the nervous sweat on his palms, the rapid beating of his heart. Around him stood a circle of hooded figures in a torchlit chamber. Jeremiah Burke, you have been found guilty of betraying the secrets of our order, intoned a cold voice from beneath one of the hoods. The sentence is death. Horror flooded through him, through Jeremiah. Harry felt the young man's panic, his desperate desire to flee, to explain, to beg for mercy. But Jeremiah's body wouldn't move. Please, Jeremiah whispered. I told no one. I swear on my magic, I told no one. Yet the Muggles found 3 of our safe houses. The hooded speaker stepped forward. Curious coincidence. It wasn't me. Check my memories, use Veritaserum. We did. Another figure stepped forward, holding a vial of swirling silver liquid. Your memories have been, selectively modified. Very skillfully done. But not skillfully enough. No, that's impossible. The Umbra Concilium has protected our kind for 7 centuries, Mr. Burke. Did you really think you were the first to attempt betrayal? The name sent a jolt through Harry, or was it through Jeremiah? Something about it seemed important, vital even, but he couldn't grasp why. I don't even know what that is. Jeremiah cried. Please, I've done nothing wrong. Your death will not be in vain, said the leader, raising a wand. It will serve as a reminder to all who would expose our world to danger. Harry felt Jeremiah's terror crescendo as the circle of wands rose in unison. There was no escape, nowhere to run. Avada Kedavra. The chorus of voices merged into one terrible sound. Green light flooded Harry's vision as Jeremiah's body crumpled. The pain was everywhere and nowhere at once, the sensation of life being ripped away, of consciousness unraveling thread by thread. Then, mercifully, darkness. Harry woke gasping on his living room floor. The book had fallen beside him, pages crumpled beneath his weight. His shirt clung to him, soaked through with sweat. Umbra Concilium, he mumbled, desperate not to forget. Umbra Concilium. He scrambled for a quill and parchment, scribbling the name before it could slip away from him like a dream upon waking. But this was no ordinary dream. Harry knew with bone-deep certainty that Jeremiah Burke had been a real person, and that he had really died exactly as Harry had experienced it. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 6 times. Ron and Hermione would be arriving in an hour, and Harry looked like he'd just crawled out of a grave. He hauled himself up from the floor, muscles protesting after who knows how long lying there. As he staggered to the shower, the same questions circled his mind like vultures. Why was this happening? Why him? And most importantly, how could he make it stop before it drove him completely mad? You're experiencing deaths from wizarding history when you sleep? Hermione's voice rose an octave. Harry, why didn't you tell us sooner? They sat around Harry's kitchen table, dinner mostly forgotten. Creature had outdone himself with a roast that would have made Molly Weasley proud, but Harry had barely touched his food. The brief nap earlier had stolen what little appetite he had. I thought it was just nightmares at first, Harry said. Really vivid ones. But they're not random. They're real. I can feel everything the person felt. I know things I couldn't possibly know. Ron looked skeptical. Like what? The woman from last night, Agnes Sampson, a witch in Scotland. She was executed in 1591. I knew her children's names. I remembered a spell she created for calming livestock during thunderstorms. Specific details about her life that aren't in any history book. That's... Ron trailed off. Mental? Harry suggested. I was going to say, terrifying, but yeah, that too. Hermione had that look on her face, the one that meant her brain was racing through possibilities faster than a firebolt. What exactly did not say to you before he died? She asked. Harry closed his eyes, trying to recall. It wasn't English. It sounded older. Slithery, almost like Parseltongue but not quite. I couldn't understand it. And the healers found nothing. Nothing. No residual spell damage, no curses they could detect. They suggested I see a mind healer. Harry laughed humorlessly. Told me it might be delayed trauma from the war. It's not, Hermione said firmly. This is definitely magical. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Have you tried Dreamless Sleep Potion? Ron asked. Harry nodded. First thing I tried. Made it worse, actually. I couldn't wake up, so I was trapped in the death longer. Felt like hours instead of minutes. Hermione chewed her lip thoughtfully. What about the name you wrote down? Umbra Concilium? From today's episode, Harry explained. Some kind of secret organization that killed a wizard named Jeremiah Burke. Said they'd been protecting our kind for 7 centuries. Umbra Concilium, Hermione repeated. That's Latin for shadow counsel or shadow advice. Ever heard of them? She shook her head. Never. But if they've kept themselves secret for 7 centuries, that's not surprising. She pulled out her wand and summoned a small notebook and quill from her bag. I'll start researching tonight. I appreciate it, but, no buts, she interrupted. This is serious, Harry. You can't keep experiencing deaths every time you sleep. It'll drive you mad. Not to mention what Robards will do if you show up on Monday looking worse than you do now, Ron added. Harry ran a hand through his unruly hair. I just don't understand why this is happening to me. When does anything normal ever happen to you? Ron snorted, then winced when Hermione elbowed him. What? It's true. Despite everything, Harry smiled. Trust Ron to state the obvious. We'll figure this out, Hermione promised, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. Together. Like always. Like always, Harry echoed, wishing he felt as confident as she sounded. The evening wound down, and Harry saw them to the floor. As the green flames whisked them away, the weight of solitude settled back over him like a shroud. The prospect of another night of death loomed ahead, and his body screamed for rest despite his mind's terror. Harry moved through the house, checking wards and locks more out of habit than necessity. No spell could protect him from what waited in his dreams. By Saturday morning, Harry had added 4 more deaths to his growing collection of horrors, a wizard killed by his own backfiring experimental charm in the 1700s, a young witch succumbing to a wasting illness in the 1500s, a middle-aged warlock murdered by his squib brother in a fit of jealousy in the 1800s, and most disturbing of all, an elderly wizard who simply closed his eyes and willed himself to die after outliving all his loved ones. He'd managed no more than 15 minutes of sleep at a time, jerking awake after each death only to drift off again from sheer exhaustion and begin the cycle anew. The brief snatches of rest were worse than no sleep at all, leaving him disoriented and nauseous. When his fireplace flared green at 9:30, Harry was slumped at his kitchen table, staring blankly at a cold cup of tea. Harry? Hermione's voice called. Can we come through? Yeah, he croaked, not bothering to move. Hermione stepped out of the fireplace, brushing soot from her jumper. Ron followed a moment later, carrying a stack of books that reached his chin. Bloody hell, Ron muttered when he saw Harry. You look like death warmed over. Harry suggested. I was going to say, worse than yesterday, but yeah. Hermione set down her own, smaller stack of books and immediately went to put the kettle on. Have you slept at all? Define slept. Harry rubbed his eyes. I've died 4 more times, if that's what you mean. Hermione and Ron exchanged worried glances. We've been researching all night, Hermione said, busying herself with making tea. I think we might have found something. That got Harry's attention. What? Not a solution, she warned quickly. But maybe an explanation. Ron dropped the stack of books on the table with a thud that made Harry wince. Tell him about the witness curse. Hermione brought over 3 mugs of tea and sat down across from Harry. It's obscure magic, barely mentioned in most sources. But there are references to a curse called Mortis Memoria, death memory. That sounds fitting, Harry said. It was supposedly used in ancient times as a punishment for those who refused to acknowledge their crimes. Hermione pulled a particular book from her stack, a tattered volume bound in what looked disturbingly like human skin. The condemned would be forced to witness deaths related to their actions. But I haven't committed any crimes, Harry protested. The original purpose got twisted over time, Ron explained. Dark wizards started using it as torture, or to drive enemies mad. Hermione nodded. According to this account from the 15th century, one victim experienced over 200 deaths before his heart gave out from the strain. Harry felt a chill run through him. Great. So I'm being tortured to death. Not necessarily, Hermione said quickly. The curse is supposed to have a specific intent, usually to force the victim to witness particular deaths as punishment or to extract information. But from what you've described, your experiences seem random. Deaths from all different time periods, different causes. So what, not messed up the curse? Or modified it deliberately? Hermione tapped the book thoughtfully. The question is why? What would be the point of making you experience random deaths from wizarding history? Harry slumped back in his chair. Maybe he just wanted me to suffer before he died. Maybe, Ron said, though he didn't sound convinced. But Death Eaters usually go for more immediate gratification, don't they? This seems, I dunno, elaborate. There's something else, Hermione added hesitantly. The name you mentioned, Umbra Concilium. I couldn't find any direct references in the historical records, but. Harry prompted when she paused. There are gaps. Strange omissions. People who should be mentioned but aren't. Events with unclear details. She pulled out another book, this one with pages marked by dozens of colorful tabs. For instance, this account of the International Warlock Convention of 1289 lists 57 attendees, but contemporary sources mention 62 wizards being present. Ron nodded. And when we cross-referenced with family trees from the era, we found at least 3 wizards who mysteriously disappeared from historical records around that time. So what are you saying? Harry asked, though a part of him already knew. I think, Hermione said carefully, that someone, maybe this Umbra Concilium, has been systematically erasing people and events from wizarding history. And somehow, your curse is letting you see what they tried to hide. The implications were staggering. Harry stared at his friends, trying to process what they were suggesting. But why would not want me to see that, he finally asked. Maybe he didn't, Ron suggested. Maybe he just wanted to curse you, and this was, an unintended consequence. Or maybe, Hermione said slowly, he was trying to show you something specific. Something the Umbra Concilium erased. Before Harry could respond, a sharp crack split the air as Creature apparat into the kitchen. Master Harry has a visitor, the house elf announced with a deep bow. Miss Lovegood is waiting in the parlor. Harry blinked in surprise. Luna? She is saying it is most urgent, Master Harry. Harry exchanged puzzled looks with Ron and Hermione before pushing himself up from the table. His limbs felt like they were filled with lead as he shuffled toward the parlor, his friends close behind. Luna Lovegood stood by the window, gazing dreamily at the gloomy sky outside. She turned as they entered, her radish earrings swinging gently with the movement. Hello, Harry, she said, as if dropping by unannounced was the most natural thing in the world. You're surrounded by death shadows. Has anyone told you? Harry barked a surprised laugh. That's one way of putting it. Luna nodded solemnly. I thought so. The Quibbler received a very strange letter this morning, addressed to you. She held out an envelope made of thick, yellowish parchment. The owl that delivered it collapsed dead immediately afterward. Harry took the envelope gingerly. His name was written across the front in spidery, blood-red ink. You opened someone else's mail? Ron asked. Oh yes, Luna said without a hint of apology. The owl died, you see. Very suspicious. And then the letter inside mentioned Harry's dreams, so I thought I should bring it straight away. Harry's head snapped up. It mentioned my dreams? Well, not dreams exactly. The letter called them death walks. Said you were becoming a witness. Harry tore open the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of parchment covered in the same blood-red writing. Potter, he read aloud, by now you will have experienced the first stages of becoming a witness. Do not fight it. What you are seeing is true death, memories preserved in the fabric of magic itself. There are those who would stop you from seeing, who have worked for centuries to hide their deeds from history's eyes. Trust no one from the ministry. They are watching you already. If you wish to understand your curse and perhaps master it, come to the Lovegood home at midnight on the new moon. Bring only those you would trust with your life. A fellow witness. Silence fell over the room as Harry finished reading. Well, Ron finally said, that's not creepy at all. The new moon is tomorrow night, Luna observed. Hermione frowned. This could be a trap. Or it could be someone who knows what's happening to me, Harry countered, new energy coursing through him despite his exhaustion. Someone who might know how to stop it. Or control it, apparently, Ron pointed out. Not sure which is worse, being at the mercy of death dreams or being able to choose which horrific deaths you experience. Harry reread the letter, focusing on one line in particular. They are watching you already. Who's watching me? The ministry, according to your mysterious pen pal, Hermione said. Or the Umbra Concilium, Luna suggested, earning surprised looks from the others. Oh, did I not mention? My father wrote an article about them years ago. No one would publish it, of course. Too dangerous. Harry stared at her. Luna, you know about the Umbra Concilium? Not much, she admitted. Daddy said they're like shadow puppeteers, pulling strings behind the scenes of wizarding history. They remove inconvenient people and events from records and memories. She tilted her head. Is that what you're seeing in your death walks? The people they erased? I don't know, Harry admitted. Maybe. Hermione was practically vibrating with excitement now. Luna, does your father still have his research on them? Oh yes. It's all in the basement behind a hidden panel. He's quite paranoid about it. We need to see it, Harry said firmly. Today, if possible. Luna nodded. I'll ask him. He's quite wary of sharing that particular research, but for you, Harry. She smiled her dreamy smile. I think he'll make an exception. The prospect of answers, any answers, sent a surge of adrenaline through Harry's system, temporarily pushing back the fog of exhaustion. We should prepare for tomorrow night, he said, pacing now. If this is a trap, we'll be ready, Ron finished, his aura training evident in his determined expression. And if it's not, Hermione added, we might finally understand what's happening to you. Harry nodded, grateful beyond words for his friend's unwavering support. For the first time since the curse began, he felt a flicker of hope. Whatever was happening to him, whatever these death memories meant, he wasn't facing it alone. Luna was watching him with that penetrating gaze that always made Harry feel like she was seeing straight through to his soul. You should try to sleep before we go to Daddy's, she said softly. The next death waiting for you is important. I can feel it. Harry shivered. How do you know? Luna shrugged. The rackspurts around your head are practically screaming it. She reached out and patted his shoulder. Don't worry. I'll wake you before you're trapped too long. Against all reason, Harry trusted her. He nodded, allowing Luna to lead him to the sofa in the sitting room. As he stretched out, his body practically melted into the cushions, suddenly unable to resist the pull of sleep any longer. We'll be right here, Hermione promised, her voice already sounding distant. Harry's eyelids drooped, and he surrendered to the inevitable. This time, he was a woman. Middle-aged, with hands that showed the wear of decades of potion-making and wand work. Her name came to him instantly, Cassandra Morrow, a seer of exceptional talent. The year was 1654. Harry felt her fear as she hurried through narrow, twisting streets, glancing over her shoulder every few steps. She clutched a small leather-bound book to her chest as if it were more precious than gold. "They're coming," she whispered to herself. "Just as I saw." She ducked into a hidden alcove as a group of hooded figures swept past. Harry recognized their robes immediately, the same ones worn by the men who had killed Jeremiah Burke in his previous vision. Umbra Concilium. Once they had passed, Cassandra continued her desperate flight, finally reaching a small cottage on the outskirts of the village. Inside, a dozen frightened faces looked up as she burst through the door. "They found us," she gasped. "We have less than an hour." Panic erupted among the group, mostly women, Harry realized, with a few young men among them. All seers, based on the crystal balls and divination tools scattered around the room. "What about the children?" asked an elderly woman, her voice quavering. "The portkeys are ready," Cassandra replied, moving to a trunk in the corner. She opened it to reveal a collection of ordinary-looking items, a hairbrush, a teacup, a child's doll. "They'll take them to safety in France. Beauxbatons has agreed to shelter them." "And us?" asked a young man barely out of his teens. Cassandra's face hardened. "We stay. We fight. Someone must stand against their rewriting of history." She opened the book she'd been carrying and laid it on the table. "I've recorded everything here, their names, their deeds, the prophecies they've suppressed. If we fall tonight, this must survive." Harry felt her certainty that they would not survive the night. She had seen it already, their deaths, the burning of their sanctuary, the erasure of their very existence from memory. "What of your vision, Cassandra?" asked the elderly woman. "The one about the future witness?" Cassandra touched the book gently. "He will come. A century from now, or 3, or 5. A reluctant witness, marked by lightning and shadow. He will see what they have hidden and bring their darkness to light." Harry felt a jolt of recognition so powerful it almost pulled him from the vision. She was talking about him. Somehow, across centuries, she had foreseen his curse. Before he could process this, shouts erupted outside. The Umbra Concilium had arrived. What followed was chaos and slaughter. The seers fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. One by one, they fell to killing curses and worse. Cassandra, bleeding from a dozen wounds, crawled toward the hearth. With her last strength, she tapped the stones in a specific pattern, opening a hidden compartment. She shoved the book inside just as the cottage door burst open. "The witness will find it," she whispered defiantly as a hooded figure approached. "He will know." The green light of the killing curse was the last thing Harry saw through Cassandra's eyes. He woke up screaming, clawing at the air as if he could still reach for that hidden compartment, for the book that contained the truth. Luna was beside him instantly, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead. "You saw her, didn't you, Cassandra?" Harry nodded, still gasping for breath. "She knew about me. She called me the witness marked by lightning and shadow." He touched his scar reflexively. "She and the others, they were all seers. The Umbra Concilium killed them all." "The seer massacre of 1654, Luna said softly. "My father found references to it in old family diaries, but no historical records mention it." Ron and Hermione had rushed in at Harry's scream and now stood watching with wide eyes. "She hid a book," Harry continued urgently. "A record of everything the Umbra Concilium had done. She hid it in the hearth of their cottage just before she died." "Where was this cottage?" Hermione asked. Harry concentrated, sifting through Cassandra's memories. "A village called Wyke. Near the coast." "Wyke Regis." Hermione clarified. "In Dorset?" "I think so." "Yes." Luna and Hermione exchanged significant looks. "What?" Harry demanded. "Wyke Regis is where my mother's family came from," Luna explained. "Our home, the one we're going to tomorrow night, is built on the foundations of a much older cottage that burned down centuries ago." The implications hit Harry like a bludgeon to the chest. "You think, the Lovegoods live where Cassandra and the other seers were murdered," Hermione finished. "And if that's true, the book might still be there," Ron concluded, eyes wide. Harry sat up straighter, new determination cutting through his exhaustion. "We need to go to your father's house now, Luna. Not tomorrow night. Today." Luna nodded, her usual dreaminess replaced by rare focus. "I agree. The messenger who sent the letter clearly knows about the connection. They're expecting us tomorrow, but we'll have the advantage if we go now instead," Ron said, aura instincts kicking in. "Exactly," Harry said, already on his feet. "Let me grab my cloak and wand." As he hurried upstairs, Harry felt an electric sense of purpose for the first time since the curse began. Cassandra's final moments played again in his mind, her defiance, her certainty that someday a witness would find what she had hidden and expose the truth. Somehow, across 3 centuries, she had reached out to him through death itself. Harry wouldn't let her down. The Lovegood house looked much as it had the last time Harry had seen it, though the battle damage from their escape during the war had long since been repaired. The peculiar rook-like structure rose against the afternoon sky, bizarre even by wizarding standards. They approached cautiously, with Harry under his invisibility cloak as a precaution. Ron and Hermione flanked Luna as she led the way to the front door. "Daddy," she called as they entered. "I've brought friends." Xenophilius Lovegood appeared at the top of the spiral staircase, his silver hair even wilder than Harry remembered. He peered down at them with nervous, bulging eyes. "Luna, my dear, you didn't say you were bringing visitors today." His gaze darted suspiciously between Ron and Hermione. "Especially, them." "Hello, Mr. Lovegood," Hermione said politely. "We're sorry to intrude." "We need to see your research on the Umbra Concilium," Luna said directly, never one to beat around the bush. "And we need to check something in the foundation stones." Xenophilius went very still. "Who told you about that?" he whispered. "Harry did," Luna replied simply. "He's been seeing death memories." Harry pulled off the invisibility cloak, making Xenophilius jump in alarm. "Mr. Lovegood," Harry said, trying to sound calmer than he felt, "I think there's a book hidden in your house. A very old, very dangerous book that could explain what's happening to me." Xenophilius descended the stairs slowly, his eyes never leaving Harry's face. When he reached the bottom, he studied Harry with unexpected intensity. "You have seen deaths," he said finally. "Many deaths. They cling to you like shadows." Harry nodded. "A curse. I'm experiencing deaths from throughout wizarding history when I sleep." "Not just any deaths," Xenophilius murmured. "They're deaths. The ones they tried to erase." "The Umbra Concilium," Harry confirmed. Xenophilius flinched at the name. "We do not speak it aloud in this house." "Daddy," Luna said gently, "Harry saw Cassandra Morrow die. Here, in this very spot, over 300 years ago. She hid something in the hearth before they killed her." For a long moment, Xenophilius seemed to wage an internal battle. Finally, his shoulders slumped. "I have always known this day would come," he sighed. "Follow me." He led them down to the kitchen on the ground floor, where a large stone fireplace dominated one wall. With trembling hands, he tapped a complex pattern on the stones with his wand. Nothing happened. "It's not working," Ron said. "Patience," Xenophilius replied, continuing the pattern. On the 3rd repetition, the stones began to shift and grind against each other. A small compartment opened in the back of the fireplace, revealing a space just large enough to hold a book. It was empty. "No," Harry breathed, disappointment crashing over him. "It should be here. I saw her put it here." Xenophilius was shaking his head. "I found the compartment years ago. There was never anything inside." "Someone got to it first," Hermione said grimly. "Or it was never there at all," Ron suggested. "No offense, mate, but these visions, how do you know they're real? Harry ran his hand through his hair in frustration. I know what I saw. I believe you, Luna said calmly. But perhaps the book isn't what matters most. She turned to her father. Daddy, we still need to see your research. Xenophilius hesitated again, then nodded. Very well. But not here. There are precautions we must take first. He led them back upstairs to his workroom, where he proceeded to cast a dizzying array of privacy spells and wards. Harry recognized some from his aura training, but others were completely foreign to him. When Xenophilius was satisfied, he pressed his palm against a seemingly ordinary patch of wall. It melted away, revealing a small alcove filled with parchments, journals, and odd magical artifacts. My life's work, he said quietly. Research that could get us all killed if the wrong people knew we had seen it. He pulled out a leather portfolio and laid it on his desk. The Shadow Council has existed since the early Middle Ages. They began as protectors, wizards who removed dangerous magical knowledge from circulation and hid evidence of magic from muggles during the worst of the witch trials. Sounds almost noble, Ron commented. Perhaps, at first, Xenophilius agreed. But power corrupts. Over time, they began erasing people and events that contradicted their vision of how our world should be ordered. Seers who prophesied inconvenient truths. Inventors whose creations threatened their control. Historians who asked too many questions. He opened the portfolio, revealing a complex web of names, dates, and connections drawn in different colored inks. They've infiltrated every major wizarding institution, the Ministry, Gringotts, even Hogwarts at times. They don't rule openly, they simply edit reality to suit their purposes. Harry leaned closer, scanning the names. Many were unfamiliar, but some sent a chill of recognition through him, people whose deaths he had witnessed in his cursed sleep. How do they do it? Hermione asked, fascination overriding her usual skepticism. Erase people from history, I mean. A combination of memory charms, document alteration, and something darker. Xenophilius pulled out another parchment covered in arcane symbols. A ritual they call the forgetting. It doesn't just remove records of a person, it removes their magical imprint from the world. That should be impossible, Hermione whispered. And yet, Harry said grimly. Here we are. Luna was examining the web of connections. Daddy, you've added new names since I last saw this. Xenophilius nodded. They've become more active recently. More erasures in the past decade than in the previous 50 years. Something has frightened them. Voldemort's return. Ron suggested. Perhaps. Or perhaps something else. Xenophilius looked directly at Harry. Perhaps they sensed a witness awakening. The term again. Harry frowned. What exactly is a witness? The letter called me that too. In the oldest traditions, Luna explained, a witness is someone who can see through the veils of time and deception. Someone who carries the burden of remembering what others have forgotten. They are extremely rare, Xenophilius added. The last confirmed witness lived over a century ago, a witch named Eliza Thistledown. She was found dead in her bed one morning, expression frozen in terror. Reassuring, Harry muttered. But she left behind journals, Xenophilius continued, pulling out a small, worn book. Accounts of deaths she had witnessed, many involving people erased by the Shadow Council. Harry took the journal with reverent care. She experienced the same curse. Not a curse, Luna corrected gently. A gift, though a terrible one. The ability to witness what others cannot see. Trust me, it feels like a curse, Harry said darkly. Hermione, who had been quiet, suddenly straightened. Mr. Lovegood, you said the Shadow Council has been more active recently. Do you have any names of current members? Xenophilius hesitated. Suspicions only. They are extremely secretive. But? Harry prompted. But there are patterns. People who rise unusually quickly through ministry ranks. Historians whose work mysteriously disappears. Witnesses who change their testimony overnight. He pulled out another list. I believe these individuals may be connected, though I have no proof. Harry scanned the list, his blood turning to ice as he recognized one name in particular, Gawain Robards, head of the Auror office. No, he breathed. That's not possible. What? Ron asked, peering over his shoulder. Bloody hell. Robards? He put me on leave, Harry said numbly. Said I was a liability. But what if he was just getting me out of the way? Because he knows about the curse, Hermione realized. Or suspects, at least. A new thought struck Harry. The letter said the ministry is watching me. What if Nott wasn't trying to torture me? What if he was trying to warn me? The possibility seemed absurd on its face, a Death Eater, helping Harry Potter. And yet. The timing fits, Hermione said slowly. You said Nott grabbed you and cast the curse just before he died. Maybe he knew something about the Shadow Council, something they wanted to keep hidden. And he used his last moments to make sure I'd find out too, Harry finished. Ron looked unconvinced. That's a stretch, mate. Why would Nott care about exposing some secret society? I don't know, Harry admitted. But nothing about this makes sense otherwise. Luna, who had been flipping through her father's research, suddenly made a small sound of discovery. Harry, look at this. She held out a yellowed newspaper clipping showing a group of wizards in formal robes. The caption identified them as members of the Wisengamot Judiciary Committee, 1975. Third from the left, Luna said, pointing to a thin-faced, severe-looking man. Theodore Nott Sr., Nott's father was on the Wisengamot? Harry asked, surprised. Not just that, Xenophilius said grimly. According to my research, he was investigating corruption in the Department of Mysteries when he suddenly withdrew his inquiry and retired from public life. You think the Shadow Council got to him, Harry guessed. Xenophilius nodded. And perhaps his son inherited his suspicions. The pieces were starting to fit together in a terrifying pattern. Harry's exhausted brain struggled to keep up with the implications. So what do we do now? Ron asked. If Robards really is part of this Shadow Council, then the Auror office isn't safe. And if they're as powerful as Mr. Lovegood suggests, Hermione added, nowhere in the ministry is safe. We find Cassandra's book, Harry said firmly. It's the key to all of this. She knew about the witness, about me. She must have known how to control this curse. But the book wasn't in the hiding place, Ron pointed out. Because someone else found it first, Luna said. The question is who? And where did they take it? Hermione's eyes suddenly widened. The letter. The one sent to Harry through the Quibbler. What if it was from whoever found the book? A fellow witness, Harry quoted, hope surging through him. Someone who's been through this before. And they want to meet tomorrow night, Ron said, at midnight. Here, Luna added. Where Cassandra died. The coincidence seemed too perfect to ignore. Harry looked around at his friends, seeing determination reflected in their faces. So we come back tomorrow night, he said. But prepared for anything. And in the meantime? Ron asked. Harry glanced down at Eliza Thistledown's journal, still clutched in his hands. In the meantime, I read everything I can about being a witness. And I try not to die in my sleep. You can stay here tonight, Luna offered. Daddy and I have ways to help manage dreams. Harry nodded gratefully. As terrifying as the situation was, having a direction, a purpose, made it easier to bear. The curse that had seemed like senseless torture now appeared to be something else entirely, a window into truths someone very powerful wanted to keep hidden. Thank you, Mr. Lovegood, Harry said sincerely. For sharing your research with us, despite the risk. Xenophilius nodded gravely. The truth must be preserved, Mr. Potter. Even when it's dangerous. Especially then. As the others discussed sleeping arrangements and security precautions, Harry opened Eliza Thistledown's journal and began to read. The first entry, dated 1897, sent a chill down his spine. Another death tonight. I am beginning to understand the pattern now. These are not random hauntings, they are memories the world was never meant to forget. I am not cursed. I am chosen. I am the witness. Harry traced the words with his fingertip, feeling a connection across time to this woman who had walked the same dark path he now found himself on. Whatever happened tomorrow night, whether they found answers or more questions, allies or enemies, he was no longer simply a victim of a strange curse. He was a witness. And someone, somewhere, was very afraid of what he might see. Chapter 2, The Shadow Keepers. Harry didn't realize he'd fallen asleep until he found himself standing on a windswept cliff, ocean waves crashing against rocks far below. The salt spray stung his eyes, no, not his eyes, but those of the man whose death he was about to witness. This time was different, though. Harry felt strangely detached, almost like a passenger rather than fully inhabiting the dying person. He could sense the man's emotions, fear, determination, resignation, but they didn't overwhelm him as previous deaths had. I know you're there, the man suddenly said aloud, startling Harry. The witness. I can feel you watching. Impossible. No one in his previous death experiences had ever acknowledged his presence. My name is Percival Blackwood, the man continued, speaking to the empty air as the wind whipped his long gray hair. Remember that name. They will try to make you forget it. Harry tried to respond, to ask questions, but he had no control over Percival's voice. He could only watch and listen. I was a fool to think I could oppose them alone, Percival said bitterly. The Shadow Keepers are everywhere. They've infiltrated the Ministry, the old families, even Hogwarts itself. Behind them, the sound of apparition cracks split the air. Percival didn't turn around. Find my daughter, he urged desperately. Cassandra knows where the grimoire is hidden. She alone can, Avada Kedavra. Green light flashed, and Harry felt Percival's body topple forward off the cliff. As they fell toward the jagged rocks below, Harry braced himself for the impact, for the pain and terror of death that had become so horribly familiar. But instead, he found himself floating above the scene, watching Percival's broken body on the rocks as hooded figures peered down from the cliff's edge. It's done, one of them said. Erase every record of him. His name, his research, his very existence. By tomorrow, Percival Blackwood will never have been. And his daughter, another asked. She'll be dealt with. The Seers' colony at Wyke cannot hide her forever. Harry tried to move closer, to see their faces beneath the hoods, but the scene was already fading, dissolving like mist in sunlight. Remember. Percival's voice echoed, though his body lay lifeless below. Remember what they try to make you forget. Harry woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright on the narrow cot Luna had prepared for him in her childhood bedroom. Sunlight streamed through the circular window, momentarily disorienting him. He'd slept through the night for the first time since the curse began. Percival Blackwood, he mumbled, desperate not to lose the name. Percival Blackwood. Who's talking about my grandfather? Harry nearly jumped out of his skin. Luna sat cross-legged on the floor beside his cot, surrounded by strange dream-catching devices fashioned from feathers, crystals, and what looked suspiciously like turnips. Your grandfather? Harry croaked, his voice rough from sleep. Luna nodded serenely. On my mother's side. He died long before I was born, of course. Fell from the cliffs near Tinworth, they say. Or was pushed, according to Daddy. Harry's mind raced. Luna, I just saw him die in my sleep. He knew I was watching. He spoke to me directly. Luna didn't seem surprised. The Blackwoods have always had an unusual relationship with death. Mummy used to say death was just another room in the house of existence. He mentioned his daughter Cassandra. That would be, my grandmother, yes. She was a powerful seer. Luna leaned forward, her protuberant eyes intense. Did grandfather say anything else? He mentioned a grimoire. Said Cassandra knew where it was hidden. Harry frowned, trying to remember the exact words. And he called them Shadow Keepers, not Shadow Council. Interesting, Luna mused. The Keepers, not the Advisors. That suggests a different role than what we assumed. Harry swung his legs over the side of the cot. Where are Ron and Hermione? Downstairs with Daddy. Hermione hasn't slept at all, she's been going through Daddy's research all night. Luna tilted her head. You seem different this morning. Different how? Your aura is changing. The death shadows are still there, but they're more organized. She gestured vaguely around his head. Less chaotic panic, more purposeful pattern. Harry wasn't sure what to make of that, but he did feel different. Less overwhelmed, more focused. And for the first time in a week, he felt properly rested. The dream catchers worked, he said, nodding toward her strange contraptions. Luna smiled. Those? Oh, no, those are just to keep the blibbering humdingers away. You controlled your death walk all by yourself. Before Harry could ask what she meant by that, footsteps thundered up the spiral staircase, and Ron burst into the room. You're awake, he exclaimed, relief evident in his face. Bloody hell, mate, you've been out for 14 hours straight. We were getting worried. 14 hours? Harry couldn't believe it. What time is it? Just past noon. You missed breakfast and lunch. Ron grinned. Don't worry, we saved you some. Harry realized he was ravenous. His stomach growled loudly, as if on cue. Hermione found something, Ron continued excitedly. About your curse. Or gift. Or whatever it is. So did I, Harry said, standing up. Where is she? Kitchen. Come on. Harry followed Ron down the winding staircase, Luna drifting behind them. The Lovegood kitchen smelled of herbs and fresh bread, a welcome change from the musty scent of old parchment that had dominated the previous day. Hermione sat at the wooden table surrounded by books and scrolls, her bushy hair even wilder than usual after a night without sleep. Xenophilius stood at the stove, stirring something that emitted purple smoke. Harry. Hermione jumped up when she saw him. How do you feel? Any new deaths? Any side effects? I feel better, actually. Harry accepted a mug of tea from Xenophilius with a grateful nod. I saw Percival Blackwood die. He knew I was there. He spoke to me directly. Hermione's eyes widened. That's new. And apparently he was Luna's grandfather. Yes, I just made that connection myself, Hermione said excitedly, shuffling through her notes. The Blackwood family has a long history of seers and oracle mages. They're mentioned several times in Mr. Lovegood's research. And in Eliza Thistledown's journal, Xenophilius added, bringing a plate of sandwiches to the table. She wrote about meeting a Miss C. Blackwood who helped her understand her witness abilities. Harry sat down and grabbed a sandwich, suddenly feeling like he hadn't eaten in days. Cassandra Blackwood. Luna's grandmother. This can't be coincidence, Hermione said. The Blackwoods, the curse, the Shadow Council, it's all connected. Harry nodded, his mouth full of sandwich. After swallowing, he said, Percival called them Shadow Keepers, not Shadow Council. He said they were everywhere, the Ministry, old families, even Hogwarts. Hermione frowned. That matches what we've pieced together from Mr. Lovegood's research. The organization seems to have multiple names throughout history, Umbra Concilium, Shadow Council, Shadow Keepers, the Forgotten Ones. Different names for different functions, perhaps, Xenophilius suggested. Many secret societies operate with inner and outer circles. The question is, Ron said, helping himself to a sandwich, what do they want? I mean, why erase people from history in the first place? Control, Luna said simply. Those who control the past control the future. But control for what purpose? Harry pressed. What's their endgame? Hermione chewed her lip thoughtfully. That's what we can't figure out. They've been operating for centuries, manipulating wizarding history, but toward what goal? Maybe there isn't one, Ron suggested. Maybe it's just about power for its own sake. Harry shook his head. No organization lasts this long without a driving purpose. He turned to Xenophilius. Mr. Lovegood, in your research, did you find any pattern to who they erase? Any commonality among their targets? Xenophilius stroked his chin thoughtfully. Initially, I thought they targeted those who threatened exposure of our world to muggles. But over time, the pattern changed. Many victims seemed to be innovators, pioneers in obscure branches of magic, or those who challenged established magical theory. Knowledge, Hermione breathed. They're controlling magical knowledge. But why? Harry asked. Some knowledge is dangerous, Luna said dreamily. Some truths change everything. A memory stirred in Harry's mind, something from Eliza Thistledown's journal. Eliza wrote about a theory. She believed magic itself was changing over time, becoming more constrained by rules and traditions. That's ridiculous, Hermione scoffed. Magic is magic. It doesn't change. Doesn't it? Xenophilius challenged gently. Consider the founders of Hogwarts. The magic they performed, creating the Room of Requirement, the enchanted ceiling in the Great Hall, the very foundations of the castle itself. Could any living wizard or witch recreate such wonders today? Hermione opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again, looking troubled. Ancient wizards performed feats we can barely comprehend now, Xenophilius continued. They built Stonehenge, created the Veil in the Department of Mysteries, enchanted entire forests and lakes. So you're saying magic is getting weaker over time? Ron asked skeptically. Not weaker. More regulated. More domesticated. Xenophilius's eyes took on a faraway look. Wild magic versus tamed magic. The difference between a thunderstorm and a water charm. Harry thought about his own experiences with magic, how sometimes it seemed to respond to pure emotion or need, bypassing the careful technique taught at Hogwarts. His mother's love protection. His wandless magic as a child. The way his wand had acted of its own accord against Voldemort. So the Shadow Keepers are what, trying to control how magic evolves, he asked. Or prevent certain kinds of magic from being rediscovered, Xenophilius suggested. Magic that might upset their power structure. This is all fascinating theory, Hermione said, but we need more concrete information. The meeting tonight with this fellow witness is our best lead. Harry nodded, finishing his sandwich. And we still need to find Cassandra's book. If Percival knew about it, and it was important enough for his daughter to hide, it must contain something crucial. If it exists at all, Ron pointed out. No offense, Luna, but some of this sounds a bit out there. The truth often is, Luna replied serenely. Harry stood up, feeling restless. I want to try something. Luna, you said I controlled my death walk last night. How? You directed your consciousness, Luna explained. Instead of being swept away by the death, you maintained a separate awareness. Can I do it while awake? Access these memories deliberately. Luna exchanged glances with her father. Possibly. Witnesses in the past have developed such abilities, but it's dangerous. The more deaths you experience, the more the boundary between your consciousness and theirs blurs. I'll take that risk, Harry said firmly. If I can control this, whatever it is. I might be able to find specific information about the Shadow Keepers. Or about Cassandra's book, Hermione added eagerly. It would require deep meditation, Xenophilius cautioned. A trance state between sleeping and waking. Then let's try it. Harry looked around at his friends. We have hours before the meeting tonight. This could give us an advantage. Ron looked dubious. What if you get stuck in a death? Or what if it makes the curse worse? What if it helps us understand what we're dealing with? Harry countered. I'm tired of being a victim of this thing, Ron. I want to use it. After some discussion, they moved to Xenophilius's study, which he claimed had the right ethereal resonance for such work. The cluttered room was rearranged to create a space in the center where Harry could sit on a cushion surrounded by a circle of strange crystals and herbs. These will help anchor your consciousness to your body, Xenophilius explained, lighting bundles of herbs that emitted sweet-smelling smoke, while allowing your mind to wander the paths of death memory. Hermione looked skeptical but held her tongue. Ron simply shrugged when Harry caught his eye, as if to say, worth a try, I guess. Luna knelt beside Harry. Focus on a specific question or person. The death memories are vast, but your intention can guide you. Cassandra's book, Harry said decisively. I want to know what happened to it after she hid it. Luna nodded. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Imagine yourself standing at a crossroads with countless paths stretching out in all directions. Each path leads to a different death. You're looking for one specific path, one that shows the book's fate. Harry closed his eyes, feeling slightly foolish at first. The smoke made his head feel light, and the sounds of the room seemed to recede. He focused on Cassandra Morrow, on the leather-bound book she had hidden in the hearth as she died. Show me, he whispered. Show me the book. For a long moment, nothing happened. Harry was acutely aware of his own breathing, of the hard floor beneath his cushion, of the expectant silence around him. Then, gradually, a tingling sensation spread from the base of his skull down his spine. The darkness behind his closed eyelids shifted, deepened, became a void he could fall into if he just let go. Harry let go. He was in the burned-out shell of a cottage. Ash and charred timbers crunched beneath his feet, no, not his feet. He inhabited the body of a tall, thin man with pale hands that clutched a wand nervously. Night had fallen, and only the man's Lumos spell illuminated the ruins. It must be here somewhere, the man muttered, his voice carrying a refined accent. The old fool said she hid it in the hearth. Harry felt the man's impatience, his fear of being discovered. This was mere days after the massacre of the Seers, he realized. The bodies had been removed, but the site hadn't been fully cleared yet. The man approached what remained of the stone fireplace, still standing amid the devastation. With precise movements, he tapped a pattern on the stones, the same pattern Xenophilius had used centuries later. The hidden compartment opened, and the man gave a hiss of triumph as he withdrew a leather-bound book. At last, he breathed, caressing the cover. Cassandra's Prophecies. He opened it eagerly, then froze, his body going rigid with shock and anger. No, he snarled. No, no, and no. The pages were blank. Every single one. The man flung the book down in disgust. That deceitful witch. She must have enchanted it. He snatched up the book again, casting detection spells over it. Nothing revealed any hidden text. Where did you hide the real contents, Cassandra? He demanded of the empty air. Where? A sound outside made the man whirl around in alarm. He quickly shrunk the book and tucked it into his pocket, then doused his wand light. As he slipped away from the ruins, Harry caught a glimpse of his face in the moonlight, aristocratic features, cold eyes, and a distinctive ring on his left hand bearing a crest Harry didn't recognize. The scene shifted, dissolving into mist before reforming. The same man, now seated in a luxurious study, held the book before a small group of hooded figures. The text remains hidden, he reported. None of our enchantments have revealed Cassandra's writings. Perhaps there is nothing to reveal, suggested one of the figures, a woman's voice. A final jest from a dying seer. Impossible, the man snapped. My source was clear. She recorded everything, our names, our deeds, our plans. Most dangerously, her prophecies about the future witness. The witness is a myth, scoffed another figure. Cassandra Morrow was the most powerful seer of her generation, the man replied coldly. If she foresaw a witness, we must assume it will come to pass. What do you suggest, Arcturus? Asked the woman. We keep the book secure. Study it. Eventually, we will break whatever enchantment protects it. Arcturus, that was his name, stroked the cover almost lovingly. And we continue our work. Any seers showing unusual talent must be watched closely. Any mention of a witness in prophecy or literature must be suppressed. And the Blackwood line must end, Arcturus said firmly. The girl survived our purge, but she cannot be allowed to continue her family's meddling. I'll see to it personally. The scene shifted again. Years had passed. Arcturus, now gray-haired but still imposing, stood before an ornate cabinet in what appeared to be a private vault. He placed the book inside, alongside other objects of obvious magical power. Still guarding your secrets, Cassandra, he murmured. But time is on my side. Even your magic cannot hold forever. He closed the cabinet and sealed it with complex spells. As he turned to leave, Harry glimpsed the room more clearly, a vast chamber filled with similar cabinets, each numbered and warded. On the wall hung a crest matching the ring Arcturus wore, a raven clutching a key in its beak, surrounded by 7 stars. The vault door bore a name, Black Family Repository. The scene faded, and Harry felt himself being pulled back to his own body. He fought against it, trying to see more, but the connection was breaking. As the vault disappeared from view, a whisper seemed to follow him back to consciousness, the key is in the blood. The truth hides in plain sight. Harry gasped as he returned to himself, nearly toppling off his cushion. Ron caught his shoulder, steadying him. Harry! Are you all right, mate? You were gone for almost 2 hours. 2 hours? Harry blinked, disoriented. It had felt like minutes. Hermione knelt beside him, offering a glass of water. What happened? Did you see anything? Harry drank gratefully, his throat parched. I saw everything. The book, Cassandra's book. It was taken by a man named Arcturus. He was one of them, one of the Shadow Keepers. Arcturus? Hermione repeated, exchanging a glance with Ron. Arcturus Black. I don't know his last name, but the book ended up in something called the Black Family Repository. Luna's eyes widened. The Black Family Vault. Not their Gringotts vault, Harry clarified, remembering the vast chamber. Something private. Hidden. There were dozens of cabinets with magical artifacts. Ron let out a low whistle. The legendary Black Collection. Old pureblood families like the Blacks kept their most valuable magical items separate from their gold. Secret locations, protected by blood wards. And since you inherited everything from Sirius. Hermione began excitedly. I might be able to access it, Harry finished, the implications dawning on him. If I can find it. But there's a problem, he continued, remembering another detail. The book is blank. Cassandra enchanted it somehow. Arcturus and the others couldn't read it. A security measure, Hermione mused. Probably blood magic, given the time period. Only a Blackwood could reveal the contents. Which means Luna might be able to read it, Ron said, looking at their friend. Luna nodded thoughtfully. If grandmother enchanted it, I should be able to unlock it. The question is, how do we find this repository? Creature might know, Harry suggested. He served the Black family for generations. Hermione checked her watch. It's already 4 o'clock. We only have 8 hours until the meeting with the mysterious witness. We can do both, Harry decided, standing up. The room spun briefly, and he swayed on his feet. Whoa. Easy, Ron said, gripping his arm. You look like death warmed over. Again. I'm fine. Harry steadied himself. Just a bit dizzy. The vision took more out of me than I expected. You need to rest before tonight, Hermione insisted. No time, Harry countered. We need to find that book. It could tell us exactly what we're dealing with. After a brief argument that Harry predictably won, they decided to split up. Harry and Ron would return to Grimmauld Place to interrogate Kreacher about the Black Repository, while Hermione and Luna would continue researching at the Lovegood house and prepare for the midnight meeting. Be careful, Xenophilius warned as they prepared to leave. If the Shadow Keepers have infiltrated the Ministry as deeply as we suspect, they may be watching Harry's movements. We'll use the invisibility cloak, Harry assured him. And we'll be back well before midnight. The familiar sensation of apparition squeezed Harry's already unsettled stomach as he and Ron disappeared from the Lovegood's garden, reappearing in the small park across from number 12, Grimmauld Place. You really think Kreacher will know about this repository? Ron asked as they crossed the street under the invisibility cloak. He knows everything about the Black family, Harry replied. Their secrets, their hiding places. If anyone can point us to the repository, it's him. They slipped into the house quietly, removing the cloak only once the door was securely locked behind them. Harry called for Kreacher, who appeared with a crack, bowing low. Master Harry has returned, the elderly house elf croaked. Kreacher was wondering when Master would come home. Sorry, Kreacher. I've been. Harry hesitated. Dealing with a complicated situation. Kreacher's eyes narrowed shrewdly. Master does not look well. Dark magic clings to Master. That's part of the complicated situation, Harry admitted. Kreacher, I need to ask you something important about the Black family. The house elf straightened, a hint of pride in his posture. Kreacher has served the noble house of Black for generations. What does Master wish to know? Have you ever heard of the Black family repository? A place where the family kept their most valuable magical artifacts. Kreacher's entire demeanor changed instantly. His eyes widened, and he took a step backward, wringing his hands anxiously. Master should not speak of such things, he whispered. The repository is most secret. Most protected. So it does exist, Harry pressed. Where is it, Kreacher? I need to find something that was stored there. Kreacher shook his head vigorously. Kreacher cannot say. Kreacher is bound by old magic not to reveal the repository's location to any but a Black by blood. Ron sighed in frustration. That's just brilliant. Now what? Harry thought for a moment. Kreacher, I'm not asking you to tell me where it is. But can you take me there? I am the heir to the Black family fortune and properties. Kreacher twisted his ears painfully, clearly conflicted. Master is not a Black by blood. But Master is the legal heir. He paced in a small circle, muttering to himself. The old magic might accept Master. Or it might kill Master where he stands. That's reassuring, Ron muttered. I'll risk it, Harry said firmly. This is important, Kreacher. Lives could depend on it. The house elf studied Harry for a long moment, his ancient eyes unreadable. Finally, he nodded once, curtly. Kreacher will take Master to the entrance. Whether Master can enter will be for the old magic to decide. He turned to Ron. The blood traitor cannot come. Only Master. Ron looked ready to argue, but Harry cut him off. It's fine. Ron can go back to Luna's and tell the others what we've found. I'll meet you all there before midnight. I don't like this, Harry, Ron said, lowering his voice. What if it's a trap? What if this repository is protected by more than just blood wards? I don't have a choice, Harry replied quietly. The book is our best lead. And after what I saw in the vision, I need to do this. After further discussion, Ron reluctantly agreed to return to the Lovegoods. Before he left, he gripped Harry's shoulder firmly. "If you're not back by 11, we're coming to find you," he warned. "Midnight meeting or not?" Harry nodded. "I'll be careful." Once Ron had departed via Floo, Harry turned back to Creature. "All right, I'm ready. Take me to the repository." Creature's expression remained grave. "Master should prepare himself. The journey is not pleasant for those not born to the blood." Before Harry could ask what that meant, Creature grabbed his wrist with surprising strength and snapped his fingers. The world dissolved around them, but not in the familiar way of apparition. This felt more like being pulled apart at the seams, his very essence unraveling and then painfully reknitting itself. When the sensation ended, Harry found himself on his knees, retching onto a stone floor. Creature stood nearby, watching him passively. "The blood magic tests Master's worthiness," the elf explained. "If Master were rejected, Master would not have reassembled." "Reassembled?" Harry gasped, wiping his mouth. What the hell kind of transportation was that? "Old magic," Creature said simply. "Before wizards tamed apparition." Harry struggled to his feet, finally taking in his surroundings. They stood in a circular chamber hewn from black stone, illuminated by floating balls of blue fire. 7 doorways led off in different directions, each bearing a different constellation carved into the lintel. "The repository lies beyond," Creature said, indicating the doorways. "Each path holds different treasures of the noble house of Black. Master must choose." "Choose? But I don't know which door leads to the book." "Creature cannot enter the repository proper. Creature can only bring Master to the crossroads." The house elf backed away. "Master must find his own path now." "Wait, how will I get back?" "When Master wishes to return, Master need only spill a drop of blood on the center stone and speak the Black family motto." Harry looked down, noticing for the first time the large circular stone in the center of the chamber, inscribed with the Black family crest, the same raven and stars he had seen in his vision. "Toujours pur," Harry recited, remembering Sirius's bitter description of his family's motto. "Always pure." Creature nodded. "Creature will await Master at Grimmauld Place." With a crack, the house elf disappeared, leaving Harry alone at the crossroads. "Great," Harry muttered to himself. 7 doors and no idea which one to choose. He approached the center stone, studying the crest more carefully. The raven clutching the key in its beak was surrounded by 7 stars, arranged in a pattern Harry recognized from his astronomy classes, the Pleiades, the 7 sisters. Looking up at the doorways again, he realized each bore a different star from that constellation: Alcyone, Seleno, Electra, Maia, Merope, Sterope, and Tayagita. In his vision, Arcturus had placed the book in a cabinet in a vast chamber. But which of these doors led to that chamber? Harry closed his eyes, trying to recall more details from the vision. The cabinet had been numbered, hadn't it? Yes, a small plaque on the front had read M7. M4. Maia. It was his best guess. Harry approached the doorway inscribed with Maia and hesitated at the threshold. What other protections might lie beyond? He gripped his wand tightly and stepped through. The doorway deposited him in a long gallery lined with glass cases. Inside each case floated a single object: ancient wands, jeweled daggers, scrolls and books that radiated dark magic. The air felt thick and oppressive, charged with centuries of accumulated power. Harry moved cautiously down the gallery, scanning the cases for any sign of Cassandra's book. Each case bore a plaque with a designation: M1, M2, M3. He was on the right track. The gallery seemed to stretch on forever, the end always just out of sight no matter how far he walked. Harry's instincts screamed that this was magic designed to trap intruders, to make them wander until they collapsed from exhaustion. "I don't have time for this," he muttered, raising his wand. Accio Cassandra's book. Nothing happened. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. Harry tried another approach. Accio Case M7. Again, nothing. Frustrated, Harry stopped walking and thought. The repository clearly operated according to its own magical rules. Perhaps instead of trying to find the book, he needed to make the book come to him. But how? What would make these ancient protections recognize his right to claim an artifact? The answer came to him suddenly. Blood. It always came back to blood with the old families. Harry pricked his finger with his wand and let a drop of blood fall to the floor. I, Harry Potter, heir to the House of Black, seek the book of Cassandra Morrow, stored in Case M7. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gallery began to shift, the cases blurring as they moved past him at increasing speed. Harry stood his ground as the magical space rearranged itself around him, finally settling with one case directly before him. Case M7. Inside floated a leather-bound book exactly as Harry had seen in his vision. The case had no visible opening, no lock or hinge. It appeared to be a solid piece of glass. How am I supposed to? Harry began, then stopped as he noticed his blood drop on the floor was moving, slithering like a tiny red snake toward the case. When it reached the glass, it seeped through as if the barrier were porous. The moment the blood touched the book inside, the entire case dissolved into mist. Harry reached out carefully and took the book. It felt warm in his hands, almost alive. The cover bore no title, only an intricate design of interwoven branches that seemed to shift subtly as he looked at it. He opened it to the first page. Blank, just as in his vision. He flipped through, every page empty of text. Now what? He wondered aloud. The blood on his finger had nearly dried. On impulse, Harry pressed it to the first page of the book. Immediately, crimson lines spread from his fingerprint, branching across the page to form words in an elegant script, "To the witness who carries my blood, the truth lies hidden in plain sight. Speak my name with intent, and I will reveal what was hidden." Harry's pulse quickened. Cassandra Morrow, he said clearly, focusing his intent. Nothing happened. Cassandra Blackwood, he tried instead, remembering that Morrow might have been a married name. The pages remained stubbornly blank. Harry frowned, thinking. The message specified, "The witness who carries my blood." Luna was Cassandra's direct descendant, but Harry wasn't. So why had the book responded to his blood at all? Unless we're related, Harry murmured, the realization dawning. Somewhere back in the family tree, the Potters and the Blackwoods must be connected. It made a strange sort of sense. Most pureblood families were interconnected after centuries of strategic marriages. Sirius had once shown Harry the Black family tapestry, pointing out how virtually every wizarding family was represented somewhere in their tangled genealogy. But that still didn't solve the problem of how to unlock the book's contents. Harry needed Luna's more direct connection to Cassandra. He tucked the book into his robes and turned to leave, only to find the gallery had changed again. The cases had vanished, replaced by a single door bearing the Black family crest. "I guess that's my exit," Harry muttered, approaching it cautiously. As he reached for the handle, a voice spoke from behind him. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Potter." Harry whirled around, wand raised. A figure stood at the far end of the gallery, tall, blonde, and unmistakable even at this distance. "Malfoy?" Harry said incredulously. Draco Malfoy stepped forward, his own wand held loosely at his side. "You've set off every alarm in the repository. The Blacks were paranoid about their treasures. How did you get in here? How did you even know about this place?" Malfoy gave him a withering look. "I'm a Black on my mother's side, Potter. Of course I know about the repository. The real question is, how did you find it? And what are you stealing?" "I'm not stealing anything," Harry replied defensively. "This belongs to me by right. Sirius left me everything. Legally, perhaps. Malfoy's eyes narrowed. But the repository operates according to older laws than those recognized by the Ministry. Blood laws. Harry's fingers tightened around the book concealed in his robes. What are you doing here, Malfoy? I felt the breach in the family wards. Draco moved closer, studying Harry with unexpected intensity. You look terrible, by the way. What have you gotten yourself into this time? Nothing that concerns you. If you're raiding the Black Repository, it concerns me. Draco's gaze flicked to Harry's robes, where the outline of the book was visible. What did you take? Harry weighed his options. He could try to fight his way out, but he had no idea what other protections the repository might have. And while he and Malfoy had maintained a cold civility since the war, they were hardly allies. But then again. What do you know about the Umbra Concilium? Harry asked abruptly. Draco went very still, his face draining of what little color it had. Where did you hear that name? Answer the question. Lower your wand first. Harry hesitated, then slowly lowered his wand. Draco did the same. The Shadow Council is not something people discuss casually, Potter, Draco said quietly. Especially not here, where the walls themselves might be listening. So you do know about them. Draco's mouth twitched into a humorless smile. My father was approached for membership when I was a child. He declined. Not on moral grounds, mind you, he simply preferred to wield influence more publicly. What exactly are they? What do they want? Why the sudden interest? Draco countered. And what does it have to do with whatever you just stole from my ancestral vault? Harry made a decision. I'm under a curse. Every time I sleep, I experience deaths from throughout wizarding history, specifically, deaths the Shadow Council wanted erased from memory. Draco's eyebrows shot up. The witness curse. That's extremely rare. And extremely dangerous. You know about it? There are references in some of the darker books in the Malfoy library. Draco looked genuinely troubled now. It's supposed to drive the victim mad within days. Well, I'm still sane. Mostly. Harry pulled out the book, showing it to Draco. This belonged to a seer named Cassandra Blackwood. She recorded information about the Shadow Council before they killed her and her entire community in 1654. I need to know what's in it. Draco eyed the book warily. And you think this will help with your curse? I think it will help me understand why I was cursed in the first place. Harry held Draco's gaze steadily. Someone named Thaddeus not cast it on me before he died last week. Not. Draco looked genuinely surprised. Theodore's uncle. Harry nodded. Know anything about him? Not much. He was a recluse. Barely participated in Death Eater activities during the war. Draco frowned thoughtfully. But I do remember my father mentioning once that the Knot family had some old grudge against the Shadow Council. Something about an ancestor who was erased. This was more information than Harry had expected. I need to get this book to Luna Lovegood. She's a direct descendant of Cassandra. She might be able to read it. Lovegood? Draco looked pained. You're working with Loony Lovegood on this? Don't call her that, Harry snapped. And yes, her father has been researching the Shadow Council for years. Draco seemed to be debating something internally. Finally, he sighed. You're going to get yourself killed, Potter. Again. Probably, Harry agreed. But I don't have much choice. The curse is getting stronger, and there's more going on than just my nightmares. The Shadow Council has infiltrated the Ministry, including the Auror office. I'm not surprised, Draco muttered. They've always preferred to work through existing power structures. Harry studied Malfoy closely. You know more about them than you're letting on. Draco met his gaze unflinchingly. And you're in far more danger than you realize. The Shadow Council doesn't just kill their enemies, Potter. They erase them completely, from records, from memories, from history itself. If they've noticed your curse, they'll stop at nothing to silence you. I'm counting on it, Harry said grimly. Help me, Malfoy. You clearly know things that could be useful. Why would I risk my neck for you? Because whatever the Shadow Council is planning, it affects all of us. And because you're not your father. Draco flinched slightly at that last part. He was silent for a long moment, clearly wrestling with his options. If I help you, he finally said, I want protection for my mother. If the Shadow Council realizes I've turned against them. Done, Harry said without hesitation. We can move her to a safe house tonight. Draco nodded curtly. Then we should leave. This place isn't safe for extended conversations. The wards report everything to the Senior Living Black, which, since my mother's disownment was never formally reversed, is my Aunt Andromeda. Harry hadn't considered that. Does she know about the repository? Unlikely. She was disowned before she would have been told about it. But the wards report to her nonetheless, which means others might be able to intercept those reports. How do we get out of here? Draco held out his hand. Blood magic brought you in. Blood magic will take you out. Since we're both connected to the Black Line, we can leave together. Harry hesitated only briefly before grasping Draco's hand. Draco pricked his own finger with his wand, letting blood drip onto their clasped hands. Toujours per, he intoned, return us to from whence we came. The same unraveling sensation overtook Harry, though less violently than before. When he came back to himself, he and Draco were standing in the entrance hall of Grimmauld Place. Kreacher appeared instantly, his eyes widening at the sight of Draco. Young Master Malfoy, he croaked, bowing deeply. Kreacher is honored by your presence in Master Harry's home. Hello, Kreacher, Draco replied with surprising politeness. Well maintained as always, I see. Harry pocketed the book and checked the time. It's already 8 o'clock. We need to get to Luna's house. Flo. Draco suggested. Harry shook his head. Too easily monitored. We'll apparate to a location nearby and walk the rest of the way. As they prepared to leave, Harry sent his Patronus ahead to warn the others about Draco's involvement. The last thing they needed was for Ron to hex Malfoy on sight. One question before we go, Harry said as they stepped out into the night. You said your father declined membership in the Shadow Council. Do you know who did accept? Draco's expression darkened. Several prominent families. The Yaxleys. The Selwyns. He hesitated. And the Knots. But you just said the Knots had a grudge against them. They did. Which makes Thaddeus Knott's involvement complicated. Draco gave Harry a searching look. Are you sure he cursed you? Or did he give you something disguised as a curse? The question hit Harry like a thunderbolt. He'd been thinking of his condition purely as a curse, a punishment, a torment. But what if it was something else entirely? What if Nott had used his dying moments to give Harry a weapon, not a wound? We need to get to Luna's, Harry said urgently. Now. By the time they arrived at the Lovegood house, tensions were running high. Ron had predictably objected to Malfoy's involvement, while Hermione was cautiously open to the additional information he might provide. Luna, characteristically, seemed unsurprised by the new development. Your aura's different, she observed when Draco entered the kitchen. Less Raxperts than before. Charming as ever, Lovegood, Draco replied dryly. Xenophilius watched Draco warily but said nothing as they gathered around the kitchen table. Harry placed Cassandra's book in the center. It's blood-locked, he explained. It responded partially to my blood, but I think it needs a direct Blackwood descendant to fully unlock it. Luna studied the book thoughtfully. Grandmother's grimoire. Daddy always said it was just a legend. Not so legendary after all, Draco commented. The question is, what's in it that was worth killing an entire community of seers to suppress? Luna took a small silver knife from a drawer and pricked her finger without hesitation. As her blood dripped onto the cover, the book shuddered and seemed to inhale, the leather binding flexing like lungs. "Speak my true name," Luna recited, reading words that had appeared on the cover, visible only to her. "And know what was hidden." "Cassandra Blackwood," she said clearly. The book remained inert. "Cassandra Morrow," Harry suggested. Still nothing. "Maybe it's not her name at all," Hermione said thoughtfully. "Maybe my true name refers to the book itself." Luna tilted her head, considering. "The witness record," she tried. The book trembled but didn't open. "The Shadow Keepers," Draco suggested. Again, a tremor, but nothing more. Luna closed her eyes, as if listening to something only she could hear. "The Magisterium Occultus," she finally said. The book flew open, pages riffling as if caught in a strong wind. Symbols and text flowed across the parchment, resolving into clear, legible writing as they watched. "The Hidden Mastery," Hermione translated. "Or Hidden Magistrate." "It's a complete record," Luna breathed, scanning the first page. "Names, dates, locations. Everyone the Shadow Council erased from history." "And more," Harry added, looking over her shoulder. "Prophecies. Secrets. Plans." Draco leaned forward, his face uncharacteristically eager. "Does it explain what they're trying to achieve? What their endgame is?" Luna turned several pages, her eyes widening. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh, that's terrifying." "What?" Ron demanded. "What's terrifying?" "The binding," Luna read aloud. "The final purpose of the Umbra Concilium. To bind all magic to their rule through the Great Forgetting." "What does that mean?" Harry asked, a chill running down his spine. Luna continued reading. "Magic grows wild without constraint. It evolves, changes, expands beyond the grasp of those who wield it. The binding will tame this wildness forever, placing all magical power under the control of those who understand its true nature." "They want to control magic itself," Hermione said incredulously. "Not just knowledge of magic, but the actual force of magic in the world." "That's impossible," Ron protested. "Isn't it?" "Not according to Grandmother." Luna flipped to another section. "The ritual requires 3 elements, the blood of 1,000 forgotten souls, the convergence of celestial powers, and the final component, a true witness to observe and validate the transition." Harry felt the blood drain from his face. "A witness. They need someone like me." "Not like you," Draco said gravely. "You specifically. Don't you see? This isn't a coincidence. Not didn't randomly curse you. He made you a witness because he knew what the Shadow Council was planning. He was trying to warn me," Harry realized. "To prepare me. Or to use you," Draco countered. "To turn you into a weapon against them." Hermione was rapidly taking notes. "When is this celestial convergence supposed to happen?" Luna scanned the text. "The book mentions, when the 7 stars align with the 3 moons. That's cryptic." "Not necessarily," Xenophilius interjected, speaking for the first time since Draco's arrival. "The 7 stars could refer to the Pleiades, the same constellation represented in the Black family crest. And the 3 moons. The triple eclipse," Hermione finished, her eyes widening. "It's happening tomorrow night. The first triple lunar eclipse in over 300 years. "That can't be a coincidence," Ron said grimly. Harry's mind was racing. "So the Shadow Council is planning to perform this binding ritual tomorrow night, during the eclipse. And they need a witness to make it work. Which means they'll be coming for you," Draco concluded. "If they don't already have a substitute." A sudden thought struck Harry. The letter. The one sent to Luna's newspaper, arranging a meeting with the fellow witness tonight. What if it's not from an ally at all? What if it's from them? "A trap," Ron said, standing up abruptly. They're luring you here to capture you for their ritual. But why send the letter at all? Hermione wondered. Why not just grab Harry in his sleep, when he's vulnerable? Because they need him willing, Luna said, still reading from the book. The witness must participate knowingly in the ritual. Force invalidates the magic. So they need to convince me, Harry said. Or trick me. Either way, we can't stay here, Ron insisted. We need to move, now. No, Harry countered, an idea forming. We stick to the plan. We meet this fellow witness at midnight, but we're ready for a trap. Are you mental? Ron exploded. We know it's a trap now. Exactly. Which gives us the advantage. Harry looked around the table at his friends. This is our chance to identify who's behind the Shadow Council. To gather intelligence we'll need to stop the ritual tomorrow. It's too risky, Hermione argued. What if they manage to capture you? They won't, Harry said confidently. Because I won't actually be here. Polyjuice, Draco caught on immediately. Someone takes your place. No, Ron said flatly. Absolutely not. It's our best option, Harry insisted. We need to know who we're dealing with before the eclipse tomorrow. After heated debate, a plan began to take shape. Ron would take Polyjuice to appear as Harry, with Hermione and Luna hidden nearby as backup. Harry and Draco would be stationed farther away under the invisibility cloak, observing who arrived for the meeting. This is mad, Ron muttered as Hermione prepared the Polyjuice potion. Completely barking. It'll work, Harry assured him. We just need to identify who shows up, not engage them. And if they bring an army? We abort. Get out immediately. Harry gripped Ron's shoulder. I'm not risking your life unnecessarily. Xenophilius, after initial reluctance, agreed to leave the house temporarily for his own safety. He would stay with his cousin in Devon until the danger had passed. As the hour approached midnight, the tension in the Lovegood kitchen was palpable. Ron grimaced as he downed the polyjuice containing Harry's hair, his features bubbling and shifting until an identical Harry Potter stood in his place. How do I look? Ron as Harry asked, his voice now matching Harry's. Weird, Harry replied honestly. Try to stand like me. What, like I've got a broomstick up my, focus, please, Hermione interrupted, handing Ron a fake copy of Cassandra's book they'd prepared. Remember the plan. You show up alone, looking anxious but determined. You wait for them to approach you. You do not, under any circumstances, leave the property with them. I know, Ron grumbled with Harry's voice, which made the real Harry wince. And try to speak less. Ron-like, Harry suggested. What's that supposed to mean? Fewer bloodies and blimes, Hermione clarified. Harry's more direct. This is the weirdest feedback I've ever received, Ron muttered. With time running short, they moved to their positions. Ron as Harry waited in the kitchen, visible through the window to anyone approaching the house. Hermione and Luna concealed themselves in the garden shed with a clear view of the back door. Harry and Draco, under the invisibility cloak, positioned themselves on a small hill overlooking the property. This cloak is not designed for two adult men, Draco complained as they crouched uncomfortably close together. Shut up and watch, Harry whispered. The night was eerily still. No breeze stirred the tall grass surrounding the Lovegood house, no animals called in the darkness. Only the moon, nearly full, cast silver light over the scene. At precisely midnight, a figure appeared at the edge of the property. Tall, cloaked, face obscured by a deep hood. The figure moved with deliberate grace toward the house. Just one. Draco whispered. That's unexpected. Harry tensed as the figure reached the front door. Through binoculars, he could see Ron as Harry moving to answer the knock. The door opened. The hooded figure stepped inside. The door closed. I don't like this, Harry muttered. It's too simple. As if in response to his words, multiple apparition cracks split the night air. Dark-robed figures materialized around the property perimeter, 8 of them, moving with military precision to surround the house. It's an ambush, Draco hissed. They were expecting a trap. Harry was already moving, pulling off the cloak. We need to warn them. Before Draco could stop him, Harry sent his Patronus streaking toward the garden shed, carrying a simple message: surrounded. 8 hostiles. Get out now. The stag had barely reached the shed when one of the dark figures pointed upward, directly at Harry's position. They've seen us. Draco grabbed Harry's arm. We need to go. Not without the others. Harry pulled free, drawing his wand. Chaos erupted below. Spells flashed from the garden shed as Hermione and Luna engaged the attackers. The back door of the house burst open, and Ron as Harry tumbled out, locked in combat with the hooded figure. Harry sprinted down the hill, Draco close behind. Cover the east side. Harry shouted. I'll help Ron. Draco veered off without argument, sending a barrage of spells toward the figures approaching from the east. Harry raced toward Ron, who was clearly outmatched despite having Harry's appearance and abilities. The hooded figure fought with uncanny precision, each movement deliberate and efficient. As Harry drew closer, the hood fell back, revealing a face he recognized instantly. Robards, Harry snarled, rage coursing through him at the sight of his boss, the head Auror, a man he had trusted. Gawain Robards turned at the sound of Harry's voice, momentary shock flickering across his face at seeing 2 identical Harrys. Potter? How? Harry didn't give him time to finish. Expelliarmus. Robards deflected the spell with contemptuous ease. Foolish boy. Did you really think you could outmaneuver the Shadow Council? We who have guided wizard kind for centuries. Ron seized the distraction to land a solid stunning spell, but it seemed to barely slow Robards down. Reinforced robes, Ron gasped to Harry as they stood back to back. Magical dampening. Standard Auror issue for high-risk operations. Of course, Harry growled. He's using ministry resources. Across the garden, Hermione and Luna were holding their own against 3 attackers, while Draco had incapacitated 1 figure and was dueling 2 more. We can't win this, Ron muttered. We're outnumbered. We don't need to win, Harry replied. We just need to escape with what we know. He raised his voice. Hermione. Plan B. At Harry's signal, Hermione reached into her robes and threw something into the center of the garden. The small object, one of George's latest inventions, exploded in a blinding flash of magical light and sound, temporarily disorienting everyone in the vicinity. In the confusion, Harry grabbed Ron and Luna, while Draco reached Hermione. As the Shadow Council agents staggered blindly, the 5 of them activated their emergency port keys, rubber bands enchanted by Hermione to transport them to the safe house they'd prepared. The familiar hook behind the navel yanked Harry away from the battlefield, depositing him roughly on the floor of Shell Cottage's living room. Bill and Fleur, forewarned of their possible arrival, were already moving to secure the house with additional protections. Everyone here. Harry called, counting heads as the others appeared in quick succession. All accounted for, Hermione confirmed, though she was nursing a nasty cut on her arm. Ron, still in Harry's form, collapsed onto the sofa. That was bloody close. Language, Fleur chided automatically as she handed out healing potions. Robards, Harry said grimly. The head Auror himself came to capture me. Not just Robards, Luna added quietly. Did you see the others when their hoods fell back? Jenkins from the Department of Mysteries. Professor Vector from Hogwarts. Even Percy Weasley. Percy. Ron sat bolt upright, Harry's face contorting with his own shock. No. That's not possible. I saw him, Ron, Hermione confirmed gently. He was one of the ones I was fighting. Ron shook his head in denial. He wouldn't, not Percy. He's a prat, yeah, but he wouldn't join some dark conspiracy. He might not have had a choice, Draco suggested, wincing as Bill treated a burn on his shoulder. The Shadow Council has ways of ensuring loyalty. Compulsion, blackmail, even memory modification. Harry paced the small living room, mind racing. So now we know. The Shadow Council has infiltrated every level of the Ministry, Hogwarts, probably St. Mungo's too. They're planning to perform the binding ritual tomorrow night during the eclipse, and they need me, a witness, to validate it. But why? Hermione asked, frustration evident in her voice. What do they gain by controlling magic itself? Magic isn't something you can just regulate. According to Cassandra's book, that's exactly what they've been doing for centuries, Luna replied. Gradually narrowing what magic can do, how it can be used. Making it more predictable, more controllable. By erasing knowledge, Harry realized. By removing people who discovered ways to use magic that didn't fit their vision. But the binding would make it permanent, Draco added. No more wild magic. No more evolution or discovery. Just the approved, sanctioned forms of magic they permit. The implications were staggering. For a moment, no one spoke, each wrestling with the enormity of what they faced. So what do we do? Ron finally asked, his appearance slowly morphing back to his own as the polyjuice wore off. How do we stop a centuries-old secret organization from performing a ritual we barely understand, in less than 24 hours? We know where they'll perform it, Harry said. The book mentioned a convergence point where the celestial energies align perfectly with the earthly ley lines. Luna nodded. The Hurler's Circle. It's an ancient stone formation near Avebury, less known than Stonehenge but more magically potent. And we know they need me, Harry added. Or at least, a witness. So we either keep you far away from the circle, Hermione suggested, or I go there deliberately, Harry finished. As bait. No, several voices objected simultaneously. Hear me out, Harry insisted. They need me willing. If I appear to cooperate but actually sabotage the ritual from within. That's suicide, Potter, Draco said flatly. Not necessarily. Luna was flipping through Cassandra's book, which they'd managed to bring with them in the escape. The witness has power in the ritual. Their observation shapes the outcome. What does that mean? Bill asked, speaking for the first time since their arrival. It means, Luna said, looking up with her eerily penetrating gaze, that Harry could potentially redirect the ritual. Not just stop it, but reverse it. Reverse the binding? Hermione looked skeptical. To what end? To undo what they've already accomplished, Harry said slowly, the idea taking shape in his mind. To restore what they've erased. To bring back the wild magic they've been suppressing. That would be revolutionary, Draco murmured. Dangerous, but revolutionary. And it would require precise timing, exact knowledge of the ritual, and phenomenal magical control, Hermione pointed out pragmatically. Harry, this is far beyond anything we've attempted before. We don't have a choice, Harry replied. They'll hunt me forever if we don't end this now. And if they find another witness to use instead of me, the consequences would be unthinkable. Silence fell again as the gravity of the situation settled over them. We have less than 24 hours to prepare, Harry continued. We need to learn everything we can about this ritual, about the Hurler's Circle, about how my witness abilities work. I can help with the latter, Luna offered. Grandmother's book has techniques for controlling the death walks, directing them to specific memories or information. And I can research the circle, Hermione volunteered. Bill, does Shell Cottage have any books on ancient ritual sites? As plans began to form, Harry felt a strange mixture of dread and determination. The curse that had seemed like random torture a week ago had revealed itself to be something far more significant, a key to uncovering a conspiracy that stretched back centuries. Tomorrow night, one way or another, it would end. Either the Shadow Council would complete their binding and forever limit what magic could be, or Harry would find a way to undo their work, releasing magic from their control. The stakes couldn't be higher. And the weight of that responsibility settled over Harry like a familiar cloak, heavy, but not unfamiliar. Once again, fate had thrust him into the center of a battle for the future of the wizarding world. But this time, he wasn't fighting alone against a dark wizard. He was fighting against history itself, against a system so entrenched, so powerful, that it had managed to erase its own existence from collective memory. As the others dispersed to their assigned tasks, Draco lingered beside Harry at the window, looking out at the dark sea beyond. "You know, this is exactly what Not wanted," Draco said quietly. "Whether he was helping or using you, he engineered this confrontation." "I know," Harry replied. "The question is why? What did the Knots have against the Shadow Council that was worth dying for?" "Perhaps the same thing at stake now," Draco suggested. "Freedom. The right to discover magic's true potential, unconstrained by some secret cabal's vision of how things should be." Harry gave him a sideways glance. "That's surprisingly philosophical coming from you, Malfoy." Draco shrugged. "Near-death experiences have a way of clarifying one's priorities. After the war, I started questioning a lot of what I was raised to believe." He paused. "Including the idea that magic belongs only to those deemed worthy of it." "Now you sound like Hermione." "Merlin forbid," Draco muttered, though without his old venom. "My point is, Potter, that what you're planning to do tomorrow goes beyond saving your own skin. It could change our world fundamentally." "For better or worse," Harry acknowledged. "Indeed." Draco turned to face him fully. "Which is why I think you should use the Death Walk one more time. Deliberately. To find out exactly what happened to the Knot family. Why Thaddeus chose you as his witness." Harry considered this. Luna did say the book contains techniques for controlling the visions. Directing them to specific deaths. "It's risky," Draco admitted. "You might not wake in time for tomorrow night. Or I might find exactly what we need to know." Harry made his decision. "I'll do it. Tonight." Under Luna's guidance, Harry prepared for the most dangerous death walk yet. Unlike his previous experiences, this one would be deliberately induced and targeted toward a specific death, that of the Knot ancestor who had first come into conflict with the Shadow Council. "The technique is called threading," Luna explained as they sat in Bill and Fleur's spare bedroom. "You use one death memory as an anchor, then follow connections to reach the one you seek. Like pulling on a loose thread in a sweater," Harry said, understanding. "Exactly. You'll start with Thaddeus Knott's death, since you experienced that directly, then look for connections to earlier deaths in his family line." Hermione had protested the plan vigorously, worried that Harry would be too mentally exhausted for tomorrow's confrontation. But as Luna pointed out, understanding why he had been chosen as the witness might be crucial to successfully manipulating the ritual. Harry lay on the bed, Cassandra's book open beside him. Luna had created a protective circle of salt and herbs around him, while Draco stood guard at the door. "Remember," Luna cautioned, "time moves differently in death memories. What feels like minutes to you might be hours here. If you're not back by dawn, we'll use the awakening spell in the book." Harry nodded, his mouth dry with apprehension. "If this works, we'll know why the Knots opposed the Shadow Council. Why Thaddeus chose me." "Focus on that purpose," Luna instructed. "Intention guides the journey." Harry closed his eyes, centering himself as Luna had taught him. He felt for the now familiar sensation of the death memories, the tingling at the base of his skull, the loosening of his consciousness from his body. "Find the thread," Luna's voice seemed to come from far away. "Follow it back." Harry let go. He was in the abandoned manor in Yorkshire again, experiencing Thaddeus Knott's final moments. The ambush, the chaos of battle, Aurors and Death Eaters exchanging spells. Harry felt Thaddeus's pain as a cutting curse sliced across his chest, felt his lungs fill with blood. But this time, instead of being swept along by the memory, Harry maintained a separate awareness. He observed as Thaddeus crawled toward him, as their eyes met with recognition. "Potter," Thaddeus gasped, blood bubbling at his lips. "You must see." As Thaddeus grabbed Harry's wrist, Harry focused on the connection between them. Not just physical, but magical, a thread stretching back through time, through generations of knots. "Show me," Harry commanded the memory. "Show me why." The scene dissolved, reforming into a new death. A middle-aged man in expensive robes, lying in a hospital bed at St. Mungo's. Theodore Knott Sr., Harry realized, Thaddeus's brother, who had died in Azkaban after the war. But this memory showed a different death, an alternate reality, perhaps, or a false memory implanted to cover the truth. In this version, Theodore Sr. lay dying of a wasting disease, attended by healers and his tearful son. "The council sent their regards," whispered a healer, leaning close to Theodore's ear. "They wanted you to know that your investigation dies with you." Theodore's eyes flashed with helpless rage. "My son will remember nothing of your suspicions," the healer assured him. "The memory modifications are already done. As far as the world is concerned, Theodore Knott Sr. was a loyal Death Eater who never questioned anything." "You can't erase the truth forever," Theodore gasped. "The witness will come." "The witness is a myth," the healer scoffed, adding a potion to Theodore's foreline. "Sleep now, and be forgotten." Harry followed the thread deeper, back through the Knott family line. Flashes of deaths, some natural, some clearly not, flickered past until he found himself in an ornate study in the early 1700s. A tall, austere man sat at a desk, carefully transcribing notes from an ancient text. This was Cantankerous Knott, Harry somehow knew, author of the Pure Blood Directory, and respected magical historian. The door to the study opened silently, admitting a hooded figure who moved with preternatural quiet. Cantankerous, absorbed in his work, didn't notice until the figure was directly behind him. "Working late, Lord Knott," said a silky voice. Cantankerous stiffened but didn't turn around. "How did you get past my wards?" "The council has ways of going where it wishes." The figure moved to stand beside the desk, looking down at Cantankerous's notes. "Interesting reading. Magical devolution, evidence of decreasing spell potency since the Middle Ages. Not your usual area of research." "Scholarly curiosity," Cantankerous replied stiffly. "Curiosity that led you to access certain restricted records. Records that suggest magic itself is being constrained over time." Cantankerous finally looked up, his face a mask of cold dignity. "Is that why you're here? To warn me away from the truth?" "To offer you a choice," the figure corrected. "Join us. Your family's influence and your scholarly reputation would be valuable to the council." "And if I refuse?" "Then your research will be forgotten. And eventually, so will you." Cantankerous stood, drawing himself to his full height. "The Knott family does not bow to shadows. We have opposed your interference since Bartholomew Knott discovered your manipulation of the 1421 Wizards' Council." "Ah yes, noble Bartholomew." The figure's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Shall we see how he ended?" Before Cantankerous could respond, the hooded figure moved with blinding speed, a silver dagger flashing in the candlelight. The blade struck precisely, sliding between ribs to pierce the heart. "Your line persists in its defiance," the figure whispered as Cantankerous collapsed. "But we are patient. In time, the Knotts will serve the council, willingly or not." Harry followed the thread again, back to the mentioned Bartholomew Knott. The scene shifted to a cold stone chamber deep beneath what appeared to be the Ministry of Magic, though a much earlier version than the one Harry knew. Bartholomew Knott, a powerfully built wizard with a scholar's eyes, stood before a semicircle of hooded figures. Unlike the previous deaths, he faced his killers with defiant knowledge of what was coming. "You cannot hide the truth forever," Bartholomew declared. "Magic is not yours to control. It belongs to all of us, to the world itself. Noble sentiments, said the central figure. But ultimately naive. Uncontrolled magic is dangerous. Chaotic. We bring order to that chaos. You bring chains, Bartholomew countered. You diminish what magic could be because you fear what you cannot understand. We understand more than you can imagine, Lord Not. The figure stepped forward, lowering its hood to reveal a face of such striking beauty it seemed almost inhuman. A woman with ageless eyes and midnight black hair. We have guided magical development for centuries. Removed dangerous elements. Pruned unwanted branches from the tree of magical knowledge. You've stunted its growth, Bartholomew spat. Magic was meant to evolve, to expand. The founders of Hogwarts understood this. The ancient druids understood this. And look what chaos they wrought, the woman replied. Unpredictable outcomes. Dangerous innovations. Magic that responded to emotion rather than discipline. She shook her head. Such wildness cannot be permitted in a civilized world. So you've been slowly binding it. Ritual by ritual, generation by generation. Bartholomew's expression hardened. I've seen the evidence in the old records. Spells that worked differently centuries ago. Magical creatures that no longer exist because they depended on wilder magic to sustain them. Progress requires sacrifice, the woman said simply. The binding is nearly complete. In a few more generations, all magic will follow the precise rules we have established. No more accidents. No more unpredictability. No more wonder, Bartholomew countered sadly. No more discovery. A small price for safety and control. Bartholomew straightened, a strange smile crossing his face. You'll fail. I've ensured it. The woman's perfect features tightened. What have you done? I've hidden the truth where you'll never find it. And I've taken steps to ensure that when the time comes, when your final binding ritual is at hand, a witness will rise to oppose you. The witness is a myth, the woman snapped, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Is it? Or is it simply another aspect of magic you can't control? Bartholomew laughed. Kill me if you must, Cassandra. Erase my work. But you cannot erase what I've set in motion. Harry felt a shock of recognition. Cassandra? Not Cassandra Blackwood, surely. The woman's face contorted with rage. You will die forgotten, Bartholomew Not. Your name erased from every record, your discoveries attributed to others, your very existence a blank page in history. Perhaps, Bartholomew agreed serenely. But the witness will remember. The witness will know. And when the moment comes, the witness will undo everything you've worked for. With a gesture from the woman, from Cassandra, the other figures raised their wands. Green light filled the chamber, and Bartholomew Not crumpled to the stone floor. But as the light faded, Harry could have sworn he saw Bartholomew's spirit rise, looking directly at him across the centuries. Remember, the spirit seemed to say. When the time comes, remember. The thread pulled Harry deeper still, showing him brief flashes of other Not ancestors who had opposed the Shadow Council over the centuries. Some had died violently, others had been discredited or manipulated into silence. But all had maintained the family's secret opposition, passing down hidden knowledge from generation to generation. All had waited for the prophesied witness who would finally have the power to break the council's work. The final memory brought Harry full circle, back to Thaddeus Not's death. But this time, Harry understood the words the dying man had whispered in that strange, slithering language. It wasn't a curse at all, but an awakening spell disguised as a curse. A gift, passed down through the Not family for 600 years, waiting for the right person, the right moment. Witness the forgotten, Thaddeus had said. Restore what was taken. Break the chains they forged. And then, with his dying breath, she still lives, the first Cassandra. Find her at the circle when the stars align. Harry felt himself being pulled back to his own body, the thread of death memories finally releasing him. As consciousness returned, one shocking revelation burned in his mind: the Shadow Council's leader, the woman who had killed Bartholomew not 6 centuries ago, was named Cassandra. The same Cassandra who had founded the organization to control magic's evolution. Who had survived somehow across the centuries. Who would be waiting at the Hurler's Circle tomorrow night to complete the binding. Cassandra. Not Blackwood, but the original bearer of that name. The first Shadow Keeper. Harry woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright on the bed. Sunlight streamed through the window, morning had come. Luna sat beside him, her face drawn with concern. "You were under for nearly 6 hours," she said. "We were about to use the awakening spell." Harry's head throbbed with the weight of what he'd learned. "I know why Thaddeus chose me. I know who leads the Shadow Council." Draco, who had been dozing in a chair by the door, jerked awake. "What did you see?" "Everything," Harry said grimly. "The Knot family has been fighting the Shadow Council for centuries. They knew about the binding ritual, knew it was approaching completion. Thaddeus didn't curse me, he activated a dormant ability, one the Knots had been saving for the right person at the right time." "And the Council's leader?" Luna prompted. "Cassandra," Harry said, watching Luna's face carefully. "But not your grandmother. An older, original Cassandra. She killed Bartholomew not in the 1400s, yet somehow she's still alive. She's the one who will conduct the ritual tonight." Luna's eyes widened. "That's impossible. No one lives that long, not even with magic. Unless..." Draco started, then stopped, looking troubled. "Unless what?" Harry pressed. "There are rumors in the darkest branches of magical theory," Draco said reluctantly. "Ways to extend life beyond normal means. Methods even the Dark Lord never discovered." "Like what?" "Soul transference. Body possession. And something called memory immortality, preserving consciousness through the collective memory of deaths." Draco looked distinctly uncomfortable. "My father had books on the subject, though even he considered them too dark to actually use." Harry felt a chill of recognition. "That's it. She's been sustaining herself through death memory, the same magic that makes the witness possible. She's been feeding on the deaths she orchestrated." "A parasite on death itself," Luna whispered. "How awful." Harry swung his legs off the bed, fighting a wave of dizziness. "We need to tell the others. The ritual tonight, it's not just about binding magic. It's about making Cassandra's control permanent. She's been manipulating wizard history for 600 years, and tonight she wants to finish the job." As they hurried downstairs to join the others, Harry felt the weight of centuries pressing on him. The Knot family had opposed the Shadow Council for generations, waiting for the moment when a witness would arise with the power to break the binding. Now that moment had come, and Harry was the witness they had waited for. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the opportunity. Tonight, at the Hurler's Circle, he would face Cassandra, the original Shadow Keeper, and attempt to undo centuries of magical suppression. The final confrontation was approaching, and Harry had never felt less prepared for a battle. Yet somehow, he also felt as if his entire life had been leading to this moment, to this chance to free magic itself from the chains that had been slowly tightening around it for centuries. The remainder of the day passed in a blur of preparation. Hermione had gathered everything they could find about the Hurler's Circle and ancient binding rituals. Ron had contacted trusted members of Dumbledore's army who could create a diversion if needed. Luna had studied Cassandra's book thoroughly, mastering techniques that might help Harry control his witness abilities during the confrontation. As evening approached, they gathered in Shell Cottage's living room for a final council of war. "The Hurler's Circle is located here," Hermione explained, pointing to a map spread across the coffee table. "It's similar to Stonehenge but smaller and far less known to Muggles. According to Luna's research, it sits at the intersection of 3 major ley lines. Perfect for a ritual affecting all of magical Britain," Bill observed. Exactly. Hermione traced the lines with her finger. During tonight's triple eclipse, the magical energy will be amplified tremendously. If the Shadow Council completes their ritual, they'll be able to permanently fix the rules of magic according to their design. Limiting what's possible forever, Harry added. No more magical evolution, no more discovery of new spells or techniques that don't fit their approved framework. And this Cassandra person gets to decide what those rules are? Ron asked skeptically. Bit much for one witch, isn't it? She's not just any witch, Luna said quietly. If Harry's vision is correct, she's been sustaining herself through death memory magic for centuries. She's absorbed the magical knowledge of countless victims. Which makes her incredibly dangerous, Draco added. Far more powerful than the Dark Lord ever was. So what exactly is the plan? Fleur asked, her French accent more pronounced with stress. You cannot simply walk into this ritual. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do, Harry said. They need a witness for the ritual to work. I'm going to let them think I'm cooperating. While we position ourselves around the circle, Ron continued, gesturing to himself, Hermione, and the others. Ready to intervene if things go wrong. And then what? Bill pressed. Even if you're inside the ritual, what can you actually do to stop it? Harry exchanged glances with Luna. According to Cassandra's book, the witness isn't just a passive observer in the ritual. Their perception actually shapes the outcome. If I can maintain control of my witness abilities, I might be able to redirect the ritual's purpose. From binding magic to, what? Hermione asked. To unbinding it, Harry said simply. To reversing what the Shadow Council has been doing for centuries. To restoring the wild magic they've been suppressing. A tense silence fell over the room. That's ambitious, Draco finally said. And potentially catastrophic. We have no idea what would happen if centuries of magical constraints were suddenly removed. It would be like releasing a dam, Luna mused. All that potential energy, suddenly free. It could be dangerous, Harry acknowledged. But continuing to let a secret organization control how magic itself works seems worse. No one could argue with that. As the sun began to set, they made their final preparations. Each person had a specific role to play, positions to take around the hurler's circle. They would travel separately to avoid detection, meeting at designated points near the site. Harry would go last, arriving just as the ritual was set to begin. Timing would be crucial, too early, and the Shadow Council would suspect a trap, too late, and they might find another witness to use in his place. As the others departed one by one, Draco pulled Harry aside. There's something you should know, he said quietly. Something I realized when you described Cassandra. What is it? The way you described her, ageless, beautiful in an inhuman way, with midnight black hair. Draco hesitated. I've seen portraits matching that description in both the Malfoy and Black family archives. A woman who appears in the background of family portraits across centuries, always the same, never aging. She's been monitoring the old families, Harry realized. More than monitoring. I think she's been guiding them. Influencing marriages, steering magical bloodlines. Draco looked troubled. The pure-blood obsession may have been her creation all along, a way to control which magical traits get passed down, which ones get bred out. The implications were staggering. So the whole blood purity ideology might have been another form of magical control, Draco finished. Not just social or political, but literally controlling the evolution of magic through selective breeding. Harry felt sick. Does that mean Voldemort was possibly an unwitting pawn in her longer game? Draco shrugged. Who knows? But it would explain why the Shadow Council never seemed concerned about the wars. Perhaps conflict was useful to them, culling certain bloodlines, strengthening others. It was a disturbing thought, but one that would have to wait. The clock was ticking toward midnight, when the triple eclipse would reach its peak and the ritual would begin. Be careful tonight, Potter, Draco said, uncharacteristic sincerity in his voice. We're dealing with someone who's been playing this game for centuries. I know, Harry replied. But she's never faced a witness before. Not a real one. As the others departed to take their positions, Luna remained behind with Harry. They would travel together to the edge of the ritual site, where they would separate, Luna to join the others in the outer perimeter, Harry to enter the circle alone. One last thing, Luna said, reaching into her robes. She withdrew a small crystal pendant on a silver chain. This was my grandmother's. It's attuned to Blackwood blood and might help you identify the real Cassandra among any decoys. Harry accepted the pendant, slipping it around his neck and tucking it beneath his shirt. Thanks, Luna. For everything. The witness carries a heavy burden, she replied solemnly. But also a great gift. You can see what others have forgotten. Remember what was erased. Let's hope that's enough, Harry said, checking his watch. It's time. Together, they disapparated into the gathering darkness, toward a confrontation centuries in the making. The hurler's circle awaited, and with it, the fate of magic itself. Chapter 3, The Witness Rises. The ancient stones of the hurler's circle loomed against the darkening sky as Harry and Luna approached under disillusionment charms. Unlike its famous cousin Stonehenge, this circle remained largely unknown to the Muggle world, hidden by centuries of protective enchantments. 7 massive stones stood in a perfect ring around a central altar, with smaller stones marking the cardinal points between them. Harry felt the magic immediately, a low, thrumming energy that vibrated through his bones and made his teeth ache. The closer they got to the circle, the stronger the sensation became. Feel that? He whispered to Luna. The ley lines, she murmured back. 3 of them converge directly beneath us. During the triple eclipse, the magical current will be stronger here than anywhere in Britain. They paused at the edge of a small ridge overlooking the site. Despite the hour, barely 30 minutes until midnight, the circle wasn't deserted. Hooded figures moved purposefully around the stones, setting up what appeared to be silver basins at specific points. Others traced complex patterns on the ground with shimmering powder that glowed faintly in the darkness. The Shadow Council, Harry muttered. How many do you count? Luna squinted through the gloom. At least 20 within the circle. Probably more stationed as lookouts. Hermione and the others? In position, Luna confirmed, touching a charmed coin in her pocket. Ron and Bill are at the north point, Hermione and Fleur to the east, Neville and Hannah to the south. And Draco? West, with Dean and Seamus. Everyone's ready. Harry nodded, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. Despite everything they'd learned, despite all their planning, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were hopelessly outmatched. The Shadow Council had operated for centuries, controlling the very fabric of magical reality. What chance did they really have against such a force? Luna seemed to sense his doubt. You're not alone, Harry, she said softly. You never have been. I know. He managed a small smile. It's just, a lot. The biggest things always are. She squeezed his arm gently. Remember what grandmother's book said, the witness has power in the ritual. Your perception shapes reality. Right. Harry checked his watch. 25 minutes until midnight. I should get into position. Luna nodded, her protuberant eyes reflecting the rising moon. I'll join the others. When the signal comes, I know what to do, Harry assured her. He hesitated, then added, if this goes wrong, it won't, Luna interrupted firmly, an unusual certainty in her dreamy voice. The Nargles have been quite clear on that point. Despite everything, Harry laughed. Well, if the Nargles say so. With a final nod, Luna slipped away, heading toward the eastern perimeter where she would join Hermione and Fleur. Harry watched until she disappeared into the darkness, then turned his attention back to the circle. The preparations were becoming more elaborate. The hooded figures had begun chanting in low, rhythmic tones that seemed to resonate with the stones themselves. The silver basins now contained some kind of liquid that reflected the moon's light unnaturally brightly. And at the center of the circle, a single figure stood perfectly still beside the altar stone, taller than the others, with an aura of power that was palpable even from a distance. Cassandra. It had to be. Harry felt a pull toward the circle, an almost physical tug that made him take an involuntary step forward. The death memories stirred in his mind, whispering, urging him closer. It wasn't just the ritual drawing him in, he realized, it was his witness abilities responding to the concentrated death magic being channeled there. The original plan had been to wait until the ritual began before revealing himself, but Harry suddenly knew that wouldn't work. Cassandra would sense his presence the moment he stepped within range of the circle. Better to approach openly, to make her think he was surrendering voluntarily. Decision made, Harry removed the disillusionment charm and started walking steadily down the slope toward the circle. Almost immediately, several hooded figures turned in his direction, wands raised. "Hold," called a commanding voice from the center. "He is expected." The figures lowered their wands but maintained their vigilance as Harry approached. He kept his own wand visible in his hand, not raised threateningly, but not stowed away either. The message was clear, he came willingly but not helplessly. As he reached the edge of the circle, the hooded figures parted, creating a path toward the central altar. Harry walked forward with measured steps, feeling the magic grow more intense with each foot he traversed. The air seemed to thicken, pressure building against his eardrums as if he were descending deep underwater. At the center, the tall figure turned to face him. Her hood was drawn back, revealing exactly what Harry had expected from his visions, a woman of breathtaking, inhuman beauty. Skin like polished alabaster, hair black as a starless night, and eyes that shifted color like opals as the moonlight played across them. She could have been 30 or 3,000, age had no meaning in her perfect features. "Harry Potter," she said, her voice like music and breaking glass simultaneously. "The boy who lived. The master of death. And now, the witness." She smiled, revealing teeth too white and too perfect. So many titles for one so young. "Cassandra," Harry replied simply. "The original Shadow Keeper. Not quite as young as you appear, are you?" Her smile didn't falter, but something cold flashed in her kaleidoscope eyes. "You've been doing your homework." "How unexpected." "I've had help." Harry moved closer, within the inner ring of silver basins. The liquid inside them wasn't water, he now saw, but something thicker, darker, like liquid mercury but with swirling colors trapped beneath its surface. "Death memory shows me many things." "Ah, yes. Thaddeus Knott's little gift." She circled the altar stone, trailing long fingers across its surface. "A desperate move by a dying man. The last gasp of a family that has opposed me for far too long." "They weren't the only ones," Harry countered, watching her carefully. "I've seen others who fought against what you're doing. Who tried to preserve magic's true nature." Cassandra laughed, a sound like silver bells that somehow made Harry's skin crawl. "Magic's true nature. Such a romantic notion. Magic is power, Mr. Potter. Raw, chaotic power that needs direction. Structure. Control. Your control. Someone must guide it." She gestured to the circle around them. For centuries, magic was wild, unpredictable. Dangerous. I brought order to that chaos. I gave wizard-kind rules, boundaries, safety. You put magic in chains, Harry said flatly. You decided what it could and couldn't do. You erased anyone who discovered magic that didn't fit your vision. Cassandra's beautiful face hardened. I protected our world. Wild magic destroyed as much as it created. It responded to emotion, to need, to belief, not to careful study and control. It was unreliable, untamable. It was free, Harry countered. And tonight you want to finish what you started. To lock magic into your preferred form forever. The binding, Cassandra confirmed, nodding. The culmination of 600 years of work. Magic will finally be stabilized, predictable, under proper guidance. Your guidance. Mine and my counsel's. She glanced at the hooded figures, who had formed a perfect circle around them. We who understand the responsibility of such power. Harry took another step forward, now standing directly across the altar from her. And you need me for this ritual to work. A witness. Yes. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her perfect features. Though I confess, I'm surprised by your willingness to participate. I expected resistance. Harry met her gaze steadily. I've seen what happens to those who resist you. Yet here you are. I'm tired, Harry said, letting genuine exhaustion seep into his voice. I haven't slept properly in days. Every time I close my eyes, I experience another death, another horror. I want it to stop. Cassandra studied him for a long moment. And you believe participating in the binding will end your suffering? Won't it? Once magic is fixed in place, there will be no more need for witnesses. No more death memories to experience. A calculating look crossed her face. Perhaps. The witness magic is indeed one of the older, wilder forms. It may well be, tempered by our work tonight. Harry nodded, as if this confirmed his hopes. That's all I want. Peace. Rest. I can give you that, Cassandra promised, her voice softening to a hypnotic cadence. After tonight, you'll sleep without dreams, without death, without pain. Luna's pendant, hidden beneath Harry's shirt, grew suddenly warm against his skin. A warning. Cassandra was lying. When does the ritual begin? Harry asked, pretending not to notice. Soon. Cassandra gestured to the sky, where the first moon was visible, its edge beginning to darken as the eclipse commenced. When all three moons align in shadow, the confluence of power will be perfect. As if on cue, the hooded figures began moving in unison, taking positions at specific points around the circle. Each raised a wand, pointing not outward but upward, forming a dome of magical energy above the site. Harry recognized some of them from their fight at the Lovegood House, Robards, Vector, others from the Ministry and beyond. Your council, he observed. Quite the collection of influential wizards. Only the worthy are chosen, Cassandra replied. Those who understand the importance of stability and control. And what happens to them after the ritual? Do they maintain their positions of power? Something like amusement flickered in Cassandra's eyes. Curious about the political aftermath, Mr. Potter. How very practical of you. Just wondering what my future holds, Harry said with a shrug. Assuming I survive the ritual. The ritual requires a witness, Cassandra said carefully. Not necessarily the witness's survival. And there it was, the truth. Harry had suspected as much, but having it confirmed sent a chill through him nonetheless. He kept his expression neutral, however, merely nodding as if this were an acceptable risk. I figured as much, he said. One last sacrifice for the greater good, right? That seems to be my specialty. Cassandra smiled, apparently pleased with his fatalism. A noble perspective. Perhaps you understand more than I gave you credit for. The hooded figures had completed their dome of energy, which now shimmered faintly above the circle like heat haze. Within this protective barrier, the air felt even heavier, charged with potential. Harry glanced up at the sky, where the first moon was now halfway covered by shadow. Time was running short. What do I need to do? He asked, focusing on Cassandra again. As the witness. Simply observe, she replied. Your presence, your perception, validates the working. The death memories you've experienced have connected you to the collective magical consciousness. You stand at the intersection of past and present, life and death. Through you, the binding becomes universal. Harry nodded, as if this made perfect sense to him. In truth, her explanation confirmed what they had pieced together from Cassandra Blackwood's book. The witness wasn't just a passive observer, they were a conduit, a focus point for the ritual's power. Which meant he could potentially redirect it. And the ingredients, he asked, gesturing to the silver basins. Memories, Cassandra said. Death memories, specifically. Collected over centuries from those who needed to be removed from the historical record. Harry felt sick. Each basin contained the extracted death memories of people the Shadow Council had erased. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives, reduced to magical components. Quite the collection, he managed to say. My life's work, Cassandra agreed, misinterpreting his disgust as admiration. Or lives' work, to be more accurate. She laughed lightly at her own joke, and several of the hooded figures joined in. The sound echoed unnaturally within the dome of energy, taking on a hollow, sinister quality that made the hairs on Harry's arms stand up. Cassandra returned her attention to the altar stone, where she began arranging various objects in a precise pattern, a silver knife, a crystal phial of what looked like blood, several rune stones, and at the center, a small black book bound in what Harry horribly suspected was human skin. The grimoire, she explained, noticing his gaze. The complete record of our work over the centuries. Every modification to magical theory, every adjusted rule, every correction we've made to keep magic on its proper course. Impressive, Harry said, fighting to keep the revulsion from his voice. Indeed. Cassandra looked up at the sky again. The second moon enters eclipse. We must prepare you. At a gesture from her, two hooded figures approached Harry. One carried a silver bowl, the other a ceremonial dagger similar to the one on the altar. Your blood will form the final component, Cassandra explained. Freely given, as befits a witness. Harry hesitated, then slowly extended his left hand. How much do you need? Just enough to seal your participation, Cassandra assured him. A symbolic amount. The figure with the dagger took Harry's hand, turning it palm upward. With a quick, practiced motion, he sliced across Harry's palm, deeper than necessary, Harry thought, wincing as blood welled immediately from the cut. The second figure held the silver bowl beneath his hand, catching the blood as it dripped. When the bowl was half full, Cassandra nodded, and the figures retreated. Well done, she said approvingly. The witness commits to the ritual of his own free will. Harry said nothing, pressing his wounded hand against his robes to slow the bleeding. The cut throbbed painfully, but he pushed the sensation aside, focusing instead on the sky. The first moon was now completely eclipsed, a dark reddish disk. The second was halfway covered. And the third, a smaller, fainter moon normally barely visible, was just beginning to enter the Earth's shadow. Time was running out. As if reading his thoughts, Cassandra moved with sudden purpose, taking the bowl of Harry's blood and adding it to the central silver basin. The mixture sizzled and gave off a faint, iridescent steam. The council will take their positions for the final phase, she announced. The witness will stand at the north point of the altar. Harry moved to the indicated position, his back to the northern stone. From here, he could see all of the hooded figures as they formed an inner circle around the altar. Each took a position corresponding to a specific alignment in the ritual, 7 primary positions and 13 secondary ones, forming a complex pattern that Harry recognized from Cassandra Blackwood's book. This was it, the configuration for the binding ritual. In moments, they would begin the final incantation that would lock magic into its current form forever, ending its evolution and preventing any return to its wilder, freer state. Harry reached into his pocket, fingers closing around his wand. At his signal, a modified lumos that would flare in a specific pattern, his friends would create a diversion outside the circle, hopefully disrupting the ritual long enough for Harry to make his move. But before he could act, Cassandra raised her hands. The triple eclipse begins, she declared. The binding commences. Indeed, all 3 moons were now in various stages of eclipse, their reddish light casting an eerie glow over the circle. The stone altar seemed to drink in this light, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm like a giant heart. Cassandra began to chant in a language Harry didn't recognize, older than Latin, older perhaps than any human tongue. The council members joined in, their voices blending into a discordant harmony that seemed to pull at the fabric of reality itself. The silver basins began to glow, the death memories within them swirling faster. Tendrils of silvery light rose from each basin, reaching toward the center like hungry fingers. The air within the dome thickened further, pressure building until Harry's ears popped painfully. Now or never, he thought, gripping his wand tightly. But before he could cast the signal, a searing pain ripped through his left hand, the hand the council member had cut. Harry gasped, looking down to see the wound glowing with the same silvery light as the basins. The cut was no longer bleeding but seemed to be drawing something out of him, not blood, but a luminous essence that streamed toward the altar. "What?" he began, but the words died in his throat as the pain intensified, spreading up his arm and into his chest. Cassandra smiled, a predator's smile. "Did you think your blood was merely symbolic, witness? The ritual requires more than your observation. It requires your essence. Your very connection to death memory." Harry staggered, fighting to stay upright as the pain threatened to drive him to his knees. Through watering eyes, he saw the silvery streams from all the basins converging on the altar, merging with the essence being pulled from his body. "You're not binding magic," he gasped. "You're binding me to all those death memories." "Clever boy," Cassandra purred. "The binding works through you, the perfect conduit. A living witness, connected to every death we've orchestrated over the centuries." The implications hit Harry with horrifying clarity. He wouldn't die in the ritual, he would become its eternal battery, trapped forever in an endless cycle of experiencing deaths, powering the binding through his suffering. "Why?" he managed to ask as another wave of pain washed over him. "Because true immortality requires a constant source of death energy," Cassandra replied. "I've sustained myself for centuries by feeding on individual deaths. But with you as my conduit, connected to thousands of deaths simultaneously." Her perfect face shone with triumphant avarice. "I will become truly eternal. And magic will finally achieve the perfect, controlled state I've worked so long to create." Harry felt his consciousness beginning to fragment as more death memories poured into him. Faces, names, final moments of terror and pain, all rushing through his mind too fast to process. His vision darkened at the edges, the world narrowing to a tunnel centered on Cassandra's inhuman face. "Signal," he whispered, but his wand hand wouldn't move. The ritual was already binding him, paralyzing his body while his mind remained horribly aware. Cassandra stepped closer, running a cold finger down his cheek. "Don't fight it, witness. Your suffering serves a greater purpose. The shadow of wild magic will finally be lifted from our world." With his last coherent thought, Harry focused not on his wand, but on the pendant Luna had given him, the crystal attuned to Blackwood blood. It lay against his chest, uncomfortably hot now, resonating with the ritual's power. Blood. It always came back to blood with old magic. Using what little control he still had over his body, Harry pressed his wounded hand against the pendant, smearing it with his blood, blood that contained traces of Blackwood heritage, however distant. The crystal flared with sudden light, burning against his skin through his shirt. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice, not physical, but inside his mind, spoke with startling clarity. "Remember, witness. Your perception shapes reality." Luna's grandmother, Cassandra Blackwood. Somehow, her essence lived on in the pendant, triggered by blood and the ritual's power. How? Harry thought desperately as more death memories flooded his consciousness. "Don't fight the deaths," the voice counseled. "Embrace them. All of them. They are not your enemy, they are your weapon." Understanding dawned. Harry had been trying to resist the death memories, to maintain separation from them. But perhaps the key wasn't resistance but acceptance. With the last of his willpower, Harry did the opposite of what instinct demanded. Instead of fighting against the flood of death memories, he opened himself to them completely. Instead of trying to stay separate, he allowed his consciousness to merge with the thousands of deaths being channeled through him. The pain was beyond imagining. Harry's body convulsed, his back arching as a silent scream tore from his throat. Every death, every final moment of terror, agony, and despair, all of them poured through him simultaneously. But something else came with them. Knowledge. Understanding. The collective wisdom and power of thousands of witches and wizards whose existence had been erased from history. People who had discovered forms of magic the Shadow Council had suppressed. Innovations that threatened their control. Wild magic that responded to need and belief rather than rigid formula. And with that knowledge came names. Identities. The truth of who these people had been before they were reduced to death memories in silver basins. "I see you," Harry whispered, his voice stronger now despite the continuing onslaught. "I remember you." Cassandra's perfect features contorted with sudden alarm. "What are you doing? Stop that at once." But Harry couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. As each death memory flowed through him, he acknowledged it, witnessed it truly, gave it recognition and identity once more. "Bartholomew Knott," he said, voice growing louder. "Eliza Thistledown. Morgan Pendragon. Althea Bones." With each name he spoke, a ripple seemed to pass through the silvery streams of energy. The ritual's pattern began to waver, the carefully orchestrated flows becoming turbulent. "Silence him," Cassandra commanded, her voice shrill with panic. Several council members broke formation, rushing toward Harry with wands raised. But before they could reach him, the silver basin nearest them erupted, the death memories within it coalescing into a ghostly figure that blocked their path. Similar apparitions began to form throughout the circle, spectral figures emerging from the basins, taking shape from the death memories Harry was acknowledging. "What have you done?" Cassandra hissed, backing away as more figures materialized around the altar. "I'm witnessing," Harry replied, straightening as strength returned to his limbs. "Truly witnessing. Not just observing deaths, but remembering lives. Restoring what you tried to erase." Outside the energy dome, flashes of light indicated that his friends had seen what was happening and had begun their assault on the council's defenses. But it was almost unnecessary now. The ritual was already unraveling from within as more and more spectral figures emerged from the basins. "You cannot stop the binding," Cassandra snarled, her beautiful face contorting into something inhuman. "Centuries of work, I will not let you undo it." She lunged for the grimoire on the altar, but one of the spectral figures intercepted her, a tall, austere man Harry recognized from his visions. "Bartholomew Knott," the ghost said, his voice echoing strangely. "You erased me, Cassandra. But the witness remembers." More ghosts converged on the altar, each naming themselves to Cassandra, each a person she had ordered killed and erased from history. "No," she screamed, her perfect form beginning to waver like a mirage in desert heat. "The binding must be completed." But it was too late. The carefully structured flows of energy had become a maelstrom, whirling around the altar with increasing speed. The grimoire at the center began to smolder, then burst into eldritch flames that consumed it in seconds. Harry felt the pendant against his chest pulse once more, and again Cassandra Blackwood's voice spoke in his mind. "Now, witness. Redirect the flow. Not to bind, but to unbind." Harry understood. The ritual had gathered enormous magical power, power that could be used not to lock magic into rigid form but to release it from centuries of constraint. Standing firmly at the north point of the altar, Harry raised both hands. The wound on his left palm glowed not silver now but gold, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. With deliberate intent, he reversed the ritual's purpose, turning its binding force into liberating energy. "I witness the truth," he declared, voice carrying easily above the chaos. "Not the shadows you created, but the light you tried to hide. Not magic bound, but magic free. The swirling energy responded to his will, changing direction, changing purpose. The spectral figures seemed to grow more substantial, pressing closer to the altar, to Cassandra, who was now frantically trying to counter Harry's working. "You don't understand what you're doing," she shrieked, her beauty falling away like a discarded mask to reveal something ancient and desiccated beneath. "Wild magic is dangerous. Uncontrollable. It's not meant to be controlled," Harry countered. "Not by you. Not by anyone." With a final surge of will, Harry completed the reversal. The energy dome above them shattered with a sound like breaking glass, and the swirling maelstrom collapsed inward, centering on Cassandra herself. Her scream was not human, a sound of rage and thwarted ambition that stretched across centuries. As the energy engulfed her, her form seemed to fragment, splitting into hundreds of separate entities, the individual death memories she had consumed to sustain her unnatural life. "No," she wailed, her voice becoming a chorus of voices. "I am eternal. I am," and then she was gone, the last of her essence dispersed as the death memories she had stolen reclaimed their independence. In her place stood only a pile of dust that scattered in a sudden wind that swept through the circle. The ritual stones trembled, ancient magic stirring within them for the first time in centuries. The silver basins toppled and spilled, their contents evaporating into the night air. And above, the three eclipsed moons aligned perfectly for a single, breathtaking moment. Harry felt it then, a change rippling outward from the hurler's circle, spreading across Britain, across the world. Not a violent upheaval, but a gentle awakening, like spring thawing frozen ground. Magic stirring, remembering its wilder nature, its freer form. The hooded council members were in disarray, some fleeing, others standing frozen in shock as their centuries of work unraveled before their eyes. Harry spotted Robards among them, the head Auror's face a mask of disbelief and fear. "It's over," Harry said, his voice carrying in the sudden stillness. "The Shadow Council is finished. Magic remembers what you made it forget." Before anyone could respond, the defensive dome having shattered completely, Harry's friends poured into the circle from all sides, Ron and Hermione in the lead, followed by the others who had positioned themselves around the perimeter. "Harry!" Hermione cried, rushing to his side. "Are you all right?" "We saw the explosion of energy and thought, I'm fine," Harry assured her, though in truth he felt utterly drained. "Better than fine. It worked, Hermione. We reversed the ritual." Ron was already securing council members, working with Bill and Dean to bind those who hadn't managed to flee. "Bloody hell, mate," he called over. "What did you do to Robards? He looks like he's seen a ghost." "Several, actually," Harry replied with grim satisfaction. Luna approached more slowly, her gaze taking in the scattered remains of the ritual. "You freed them," she said softly. "All the death memories. All the forgotten ones." Harry nodded, touching the pendant that still hung around his neck. "Your grandmother helped. Her magic was in this crystal, it showed me how to redirect the ritual." "Not just her magic," Luna said mysteriously. "But that's a conversation for another time." She looked up at the sky, where the three moons were already beginning to emerge from shadow. "Can you feel it, Harry? The change?" He could. The air felt lighter, more vibrant. Magic itself seemed more immediate, more responsive. When he cast a simple lumos, the light that bloomed from his wand tip was brighter, more colorful than he'd ever seen it, not just white, but containing hints of rainbow hues that shifted and danced. "Wild magic," he murmured. "Returning." "Not all at once," Hermione cautioned, ever practical even in the midst of wonder. "The Shadow Council's work spanned centuries. It will take time for magic to fully recover its original nature." "But it will recover," Luna said confidently. "The process has begun." Harry nodded, suddenly swaying on his feet as exhaustion crashed over him. Ron caught his arm, steadying him. "Easy there, hero," he said with gruff affection. "Let's get you somewhere you can rest properly." "The death memories," Harry mumbled, fighting to stay conscious. Are they gone? The curse, not a curse, Luna reminded him gently. A gift. But changed now, I think. The compulsion is gone, but the ability remains. You're still a witness, Harry, just not a prisoner of witnessing. That made sense, somehow, though Harry was too tired to fully process it. He allowed Ron and Hermione to help him away from the altar, past the captured council members, toward the edge of the circle where they could safely apparate. As they reached the perimeter, Harry paused, looking back at the ancient stones. For a brief moment, he thought he saw the spectral figures again, the thousands of forgotten witches and wizards whose deaths he had witnessed, whose lives he had remembered. They seemed to stand in silent acknowledgement, a quiet thanks for restoring their existence to the narrative of magical history. "You're welcome," Harry whispered. Then, supported by his friends, he left the hurler's circle behind. 3 days later, Harry sat in the garden of Shell Cottage, watching the sunset over the sea. He felt oddly peaceful, despite the chaos unfolding in the wider wizarding world as news of the Shadow Council's existence and downfall spread. The ministry was in turmoil. Nearly a third of its senior officials had been identified as council members or collaborators. The Department of Mysteries had been placed under special oversight after it emerged that generations of unspeakables had been enforcing the council's magical constraints through their research and regulations. Hogwarts was conducting its own internal review, with several professors, including Vector, suspended pending investigation. Headmistress McGonagall had been horrified to learn that the school curriculum itself had been subtly designed to reinforce the council's limited version of magic. And throughout Britain, strange magical phenomena were being reported, spells behaving unpredictably, enchantments showing new properties, magical creatures exhibiting behaviors not seen in centuries. The awakening of wild magic was proceeding faster than anyone had anticipated. "Mind if I join you?" Harry looked up to see Hermione approaching with 2 mugs of tea. He smiled, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. "How are you feeling?" she asked, handing him one of the mugs. "Better. The headaches are almost gone." Harry sipped the tea gratefully. "And I slept through the night again. No death memories unless I specifically try to access them." "That's good." Hermione settled into the chair. "Luna thinks your witness abilities have stabilized. You can use them when needed, but they no longer use you." "That's how it feels," Harry agreed. "Like having a door I can open or close at will, rather than one that keeps bursting open on its own." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sky turn vibrant shades of orange and pink. "The Wizengamot is convening an emergency session tomorrow," Hermione said eventually. "They want you to testify about what happened at the Hurler's Circle." Harry grimaced. "Of course they do. You don't have to if you're not ready," Hermione added quickly. "Kingsley said he can delay the hearing if needed." "No, it's fine. Better to get it over with." Harry sighed. "Though I'm not sure they'll believe half of what I tell them." "They might," Hermione countered. "Things are changing, Harry. The council's influence is fading. People are remembering things they were made to forget, discovering magical abilities that were suppressed." "Including you?" Harry asked, noticing the excitement she was trying to contain. Hermione blushed slightly. "I've been experimenting with some of the older spellcasting techniques Luna showed us from her grandmother's book. Magic that responds more to intention and visualization than precise wand movements and incantations." She hesitated, then added, "It's incredible. Like discovering magic all over again." "I'm glad," Harry said sincerely. "If anyone deserves to explore magic's full potential, it's you." The back door of the cottage opened, and Ron emerged, followed by Draco. The unlikely pair had spent the day at the ministry, helping sort through the evidence being collected against captured council members. "Budge up," Ron said, conjuring 2 more chairs with a casual flick of his wand, a spell that produced not the simple wooden chairs he usually managed but elegant, comfortable armchairs that matched the cottage's aesthetic perfectly. Ron stared at his own handiwork in surprise. "That's new. Wild magic, Draco commented, taking one of the chairs. It responds more directly to what you actually want, not just what you explicitly command. He looked tired but satisfied. He'd been working tirelessly to clear his mother's name after documents found in Robart's possession confirmed she had been under council surveillance for years due to her refusal to participate in their schemes. Any news on Percy? Harry asked as Ron sat down. Ron's expression clouded. Still maintaining he was under some kind of compulsion. The memory specialists at St. Mungo's are examining him, but it's complicated. The council had their own memory magic that doesn't respond to standard detection spells. I believe him, Harry said quietly. When I was connected to all those death memories during the ritual, I could sense different levels of involvement among the council members. Some were true believers, others were coerced or manipulated. Ron nodded gratefully. That helps. Mum's been beside herself. Speaking of family, Draco interjected, they found Theodore not. Harry straightened. Where? In a secure ward at St. Mungo's, listed under a false name. He'd been there since his father died, diagnosed with magical delusions whenever he tried to talk about the Shadow Council. Draco's lip curled in disgust. Apparently, that was standard procedure for dealing with troublesome heirs of families who knew too much. Is he all right? Hermione asked. Physically, yes. Mentally. Draco shrugged. Hard to say. He wants to see you, though, Potter. Says he has information about his Uncle Thaddeus that you should know. Harry nodded. I'll visit him tomorrow, after the Wisengamot hearing. The conversation drifted to other topics as twilight deepened around them. Luna was expected back that evening from the Lovegood house, where she'd been securing her father's research and preparing it for publication now that the need for secrecy was gone. Bill and Fleur had gone to the burrow to help Molly cope with the situation regarding Percy. As stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Harry found himself reflecting on everything that had happened. 1 week ago, he'd been an Auror with a mysterious curse that tortured him every time he closed his eyes. Now he was, what, exactly? Still an Auror. That seemed unlikely, given Robart's involvement in the council. A witness? Yes, but what did that role mean in a world without Shadowkeepers to oppose? You're thinking too loudly, Hermione observed with a small smile. I can practically hear the gears turning. Harry laughed. Just wondering what comes next. For the wizarding world, or for you personally? Ron asked. Both, I guess. Well, for the wizarding world, there's going to be a period of significant adjustment, Hermione said thoughtfully. Magical theory textbooks will need complete revision. Spell classifications will change. New magical phenomena will need to be documented and understood. Sounds like you found your next project, Ron teased. Hermione blushed again but didn't deny it. Someone needs to record what's happening properly. This is the most significant magical event since, well, possibly ever. And what about the rest of us mere mortals who don't plan to rewrite magical theory? Draco drawled, though without his old malice. We adapt, Harry said simply. We learn what magic can really do when it's not being constrained. We build a world where knowledge isn't controlled by a secret council. Noble sentiments, Potter, Draco said, echoing Cassandra's words from Harry's vision of Bartholomew Knott's death. But practically speaking, what are you going to do tomorrow, after you've testified to the Wisengamot? Harry considered the question seriously. Visit Theodore Knott. Thank him and his family for what they did, for keeping the opposition to the council alive across centuries. And after that? Ron pressed. I don't know, Harry admitted. For the first time in my life, I don't have a dark wizard to fight or a prophecy to fulfill. It's strange. It's freedom, Hermione corrected gently. To choose your own path. Freedom. The word resonated with Harry, echoing what they had fought for at the Hurler's Circle, not just their own freedom, but magic's freedom to be what it truly was, not what someone decided it should be. Before he could respond, a silvery hair bounded into the garden, Luna's Patronus, more vibrant and detailed than Harry had ever seen it before. Found something extraordinary in Daddy's research, Luna's dreamy voice announced from the Patronus. Coming to show you all. Don't go to sleep yet, Harry. The four of them exchanged curious glances as the hair dissolved into mist. That sounds ominous, Ron muttered. Don't go to sleep yet. Hasn't she figured out you can control the death memories now? Must be something else, Harry said, intrigued despite his weariness. They didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, the distinctive crack of apparition announced Luna's arrival. She appeared at the garden gate, her pale hair gleaming in the moonlight, clutching what appeared to be an ancient scroll. Sorry I'm late, she called, hurrying toward them. I had to authenticate this 3 different ways before I was certain. Authenticate what? Hermione asked, making room as Luna joined their circle. Luna carefully unrolled the scroll on the small table between their chairs, revealing faded writing in a language Harry didn't recognize. This is the original prophecy, Luna explained, eyes bright with excitement. The one that first predicted the rise of a witness against the Shadow Council. Where did you find it? Draco asked, leaning forward to examine the text. Hidden in a false bottom of one of Daddy's specimen boxes. He didn't even know it was there, Grandmother must have concealed it before she died. Luna looked directly at Harry. It was made by Cassandra Blackwood's mother, Helena, who was an even more powerful seer than her daughter. Harry felt a strange tingle of anticipation. What does it say? Luna traced the ancient text with a gentle finger. It's in Old Celtic, but I've translated the key passages. It speaks of a great binding of magic's wild nature, that would proceed in stages over many centuries. But it also predicts that this binding would eventually be opposed by one who bears the mark of death yet lives, whose eyes have witnessed beyond the veil. Harry, Hermione breathed. It gets more specific, Luna continued. It says that the witness will undo what was done, restore what was lost, and open the door to what will be. But here's the part that made me send the Patronus immediately. She pointed to a particular section of text. After the unbinding, it says the witness will walk between worlds, guiding the return of old ways and the birth of new magic, a bridge across the divide of what was forgotten. What does that mean? Ron asked, frowning. I think, Luna said slowly, it means Harry's role didn't end at the Hurler's Circle. It's just beginning. All eyes turned to Harry, who felt simultaneously overwhelmed and strangely calm. The prophecy suggests you have a continuing purpose, Hermione explained, her analytical mind already processing the implications. As magic returns to its wilder state, as forgotten knowledge resurfaces, someone needs to help guide that transition. Someone who can access the memories of what magic used to be, who can witness the past to help shape the future. Someone who stands between the world that was erased and the world that's coming into being, Draco added thoughtfully. Harry absorbed this in silence. A week ago, he would have rejected the idea of another prophecy, another predetermined role. But now, after experiencing thousands of deaths, after connecting to the vast tapestry of magical history the Council had tried to erase, it felt right. Not a burden, but a purpose. So no pressure or anything, Ron joked, breaking the tension. Just reshaping the entire magical world. Typical Tuesday for Harry Potter. Everyone laughed, including Harry, who felt something loosen in his chest. Yes, the task ahead was enormous. Yes, there would be challenges as magic returned to its wilder, more unpredictable state. But he wouldn't face it alone. He had his friends, he had the knowledge of countless forgotten witches and wizards accessible through his witness abilities, and most importantly, he had choice. This wasn't a prophecy that dictated his fate, it was an opportunity he could choose to accept. I think I'll start by sleeping, Harry said, standing and stretching. A full night's rest without death nightmares sounds pretty appealing right now. Luna nodded approvingly. Good idea. The prophecy will still be here in the morning. As the others began gathering empty mugs and preparing to head inside, Harry paused, looking up at the stars now fully visible in the night sky. "Thank you," he said quietly to his friends. "For believing me when I said something was wrong. For helping me understand what was happening. For standing with me at the circle. Always, mate," Ron said simply. "We're with you, whatever comes next," Hermione added, squeezing his hand. Draco gave a curt nod that somehow conveyed more genuine respect than any flowery speech could have. And Luna, with her uncanny perception, said, "They're with you too, you know. All the ones you witnessed. All the ones you remembered. You're never really alone now." Harry nodded, knowing she was right. The death memories he had experienced, the lives he had touched across centuries, they were a part of him now, a resource and a responsibility. Later, as he lay in bed in the small room Bill and Fleur had given him, Harry closed his eyes without fear for the first time in what felt like forever. Sleep came quickly, deep and peaceful. And if he dreamed of ancient magic stirring, of forgotten spells awakening, of a world where wonder and wild possibility were returning to wizardkind, well, that wasn't a death memory. That was the future. 1 year later, Diagon Alley had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Shop windows displayed magical innovations that would have been impossible under the Shadow Council's restrictions. Wands responded more individually to their owners, sometimes developing abilities unique to the specific witch or wizard who wielded them. Children performed accidental magic that followed patterns lost for centuries, responding to emotion and need in ways that had once been systematically suppressed. And in a small, unassuming building tucked between Flourish and Blots and the reopened Fortescue's ice cream parlor, a sign hung above a blue door, "The Witness Archives, Remembering What Was Forgotten." Inside, Harry Potter sat across from a nervous young witch who clutched a journal to her chest. "It started last month," she explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'd be working on a potion, and suddenly I'd know a technique I've never learned. Ingredients no one uses anymore. Methods that aren't in any book." Harry nodded encouragingly. "That's happening to many people since the unbinding. Magic is remembering its old paths, and sometimes it chooses specific witches and wizards to remember through." "But why me?" the witch asked, confusion evident in her eyes. "I'm nobody special." "Everyone's special to magic," Harry replied with the certainty of someone who had witnessed thousands of magical lives across history. "And if these brewing techniques are coming to you specifically, there's likely a reason. Perhaps you're magically descended from a potion master who was erased from history. Or perhaps your approach to potion making resonates with older methods." The witch looked doubtful. "My family has no notable brewers that I know of." "That you know of," Harry emphasized. "The Shadow Council was thorough in removing certain people from family histories." "May I see your journal?" She hesitantly handed over the leather-bound book in which she'd been recording her strange new knowledge. Harry flipped through it carefully, recognizing several techniques from death memories he had experienced. "These are legitimate," he confirmed. "They match brewing methods from the 1600s, before standardized potion-making was established. More intuitive, more responsive to the brewer's intent. So I'm not going crazy." The relief in her voice was palpable. "Definitely not." Harry smiled, returning the journal. "In fact, I'd like to put you in touch with someone. Horace Slughorn has been documenting the return of historical brewing techniques. He's creating a new compendium of what he calls resonant potion making. Your discoveries would be valuable additions." The witch left some time later, her shoulders straighter, her expression transformed from worry to cautious excitement. As Harry showed her out, Hermione arrived, laden with books and scrolls. "How was the International Magical Cooperation meeting?" Harry asked, helping relieve her of some of the burden. "Chaotic," Hermione replied, setting her materials on a large table covered in maps and diagrams. "The Americans are embracing the changes in magic much more enthusiastically than the Europeans. The French are being particularly resistant, their entire magical education system was heavily influenced by council doctrine. No surprise there, Harry commented. The Shadow Keepers had their strongest hold in the older magical communities. Exactly. Hermione began organizing her notes with practiced efficiency. How was your morning? 3 visitors. A potioneer experiencing technical memories, a family whose ancestral home suddenly revealed a hidden wing that had been magically concealed for centuries, and Mr. Ollivander, who wanted to consult about some unusual wand behaviors he's been observing. Hermione nodded absently, already absorbed in her documentation work. As the foremost magical historian of the post-council era, she had taken on the monumental task of correcting the historical record, incorporating the knowledge accessed through Harry's witness abilities and the memories that were spontaneously returning to the wizarding population. The door opened again, admitting Luna and Theo Knott, deep in conversation about dream magic, another field experiencing dramatic resurgence. Theodore had recovered well from his ordeal at St. Mungo's and had become a valuable ally in the archives, his family's centuries of secret opposition to the council providing context for many recovered memories. Harry, Luna called, her dreamy voice carrying across the room. Theo's had another family memory surface. This one shows how the original Cassandra first developed the memory suppression technique. Useful, Harry replied. That might help the St. Mungo's team developing countermeasures for lingering memory modifications. The archives had become a clearinghouse for such information, a place where the recovered past could inform the developing future. As wild magic returned, as forgotten knowledge resurfaced, the wizarding world needed guidance to integrate these changes safely. That was Harry's role now, not an auror, not a warrior, but a witness in the truest sense. Someone who remembered what others had forgotten, who could access the erased past, who could help bridge the gap between what magic had been and what it was becoming. It wasn't always easy. Some magical innovations had been suppressed for good reason, they were genuinely dangerous or destructive. Part of Harry's work involved distinguishing between magic that had been controlled because it threatened the council's power and magic that genuinely threatened public safety. But for every challenge, there were a dozen wonders. Spells that healed conditions previously considered untreatable. Enchantments that created harmony between magical and natural environments. Ways of working with magical creatures that fostered cooperation rather than servitude. Magic was remembering itself, and Harry was privileged to witness its awakening. Later that afternoon, as the archives quieted for the day, Ron arrived to collect Hermione for dinner. As deputy head of the newly reformed Auror office, Robards having been sentenced to Azkaban for his council activities, Ron had his own role in shaping the post-council world, ensuring that law enforcement adapted to magic's changing nature without falling back into patterns of control and suppression. Coming for Sunday dinner at the Burrow tomorrow? Ron asked as they prepared to leave. Mum's insisting. Says she hardly sees you these days. Harry smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Family dinners at the Weasleys remained a constant in his life, an anchor of normality amid the extraordinary work he now did. Good. Charlie's visiting too, says dragon behavior is changing dramatically. More intelligent, more communicative. He wants to pick your brain about historical dragon handling techniques. That was how it often worked now, experts in various magical fields consulting Harry about historical practices that might inform their understanding of current changes. Between his own death memories and the growing collection of recovered knowledge in the archives, Harry had access to magical history that even the most comprehensive books had never contained. As his friends departed, Harry found himself alone in the archives, surrounded by the accumulated knowledge of a year's worth of recovery work. Maps showing the locations of magical sites that had been hidden or obscured by the council. Genealogies reconstructing family lines that had been erased. Spellbooks documenting magic that was reawakening after centuries of suppression. The work was far from complete. The Shadow Council's influence had extended for 600 years, undoing their manipulations would not be accomplished in a single year, or even a single lifetime. But the process had begun. Magic was remembering its true nature. And Harry was there to witness it, to guide it, to ensure that the knowledge so carefully suppressed was not lost again. As he prepared to lock up for the night, Harry paused by the archive's newest edition, a memorial wall bearing the names of those whose deaths he had witnessed during the ritual at the Hurler's Circle. Each name represented a life the council had tried to erase, a magical innovation they had suppressed, a truth they had hidden. Harry ran his fingers over the names, feeling a connection to each one. Not the overwhelming flood of death memories that had once threatened to drive him mad, but a quieter, deeper understanding of the individuals whose lives had intersected with his through the strange magic of witnessing. "You are remembered," he said softly to the names. "You are witnessed." And somewhere, in whatever realm lay beyond the veil of death, Harry liked to think they heard him. The forgotten ones, the erased ones, restored now to the narrative of magical history, their contributions acknowledged, their lives honored. That night, as Harry slept in his flat above the archives, he dreamed not of death but of possibility. Of magic unbound, evolving, growing. Of a wizarding world not constrained by the rigid rules of the Shadow Council, but guided by wisdom both old and new. When he awoke, refreshed and clear-headed, Harry understood with bone-deep certainty that his curse had truly become a gift. The witness did not merely observe the past, he helped shape the future. And what a future it promised to be, wild, unpredictable, wondrous. Magic as it was meant to be, not as someone decided it should be. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the master of death, and now the witness, stood at the threshold of that future, ready to guide wizard kind through the reawakening of magic's true potential. The shadows had been banished. The keepers overthrown. The binding broken. Now came the real work, remembering, rebuilding, renewing. Harry was ready. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.